Hello guys, welcome to Scion What Ifs. So in this video, we will see what if Goku landed on planet Yardrat instead of Earth. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, The Scion of Yardrat. The space pod hurtled through the cosmos, its trajectory wildly off course. Inside, a baby with a monkey-like tail slept in suspended animation, oblivious to the destruction of his homeworld, planet Vegeta. Warning lights flashed across the pod's control panel as it entered the atmosphere of an unknown planet, heat building around its exterior shell. On the planet's surface, Elder Piku gazed up at the burning streak across the evening sky. His pink skin wrinkled around his eyes as he focused his senses on the approaching object. "Something comes," he said to the small gathering of Yardrats beside him. "Something powerful." The pod crashed into the soft purple soil of the Yarka Valley, carving a deep trench before coming to rest at the base of a crystalline tree. Steam hissed from the crater as Elder Piku and his companions approached cautiously. "Careful," warned Piku's assistant, Mori. "It could be dangerous." The pod's door suddenly burst open with a mechanical hiss. The Yardrat stepped back, their hands raised defensively, ready to teleport away if necessary. But instead of a threat, they found a small infant with wild black hair, crying loudly as the cool evening air hit his skin. A child? Mori leaned closer. From space? Elder Piku approached slowly, his experienced eyes quickly noting the brown tail wrapped around the baby's waist. "This is no ordinary child. See the tail?" "I've heard stories of a warrior race, Scions," whispered another elder. "Destroyers of worlds." The baby's cries grew louder, his tiny fists clenched in apparent rage. Even at this young age, there was something unmistakably fierce in his demeanor. "We should destroy it before it grows," suggested the second elder, raising his three-fingered hand. "The Scions are known throughout the galaxy as conquerors." Elder Piku shook his head and approached the pod. "No. We do not destroy life. We nurture it." He reached down and carefully lifted the baby, who immediately tried to punch him with surprising strength. Piku smiled. "Such spirit. But we will teach you balance, little one." "What will you call him?" asked Mori. Piku looked up at the 6 moons of Yardrat glowing in the evening sky. "Roku," he said. 6 strengths in one being. 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. Roku grew faster than Yardrat children, his scion physiology accelerating his development. By age 5, he already demonstrated strength that could crack stone and speed that challenged even the teleporting Yardrats. "Again!" Roku shouted, bouncing on his toes in the training garden behind Elder Piku's dwelling. "I almost caught you that time." Elder Piku materialized 10 feet away, his expression calm despite the vigorous training session. "Patience, young Roku. You cannot catch me through speed alone. You must feel the connections between spaces." "But I wanna fight." Roku punched the air rapidly. "When do I learn to make energy blasts?" Elder Piku sighed. Despite years of spiritual training, Roku's scion instincts remained dominant. Unlike the gentle Yardrats, who used their energy primarily for healing and teleportation, Roku constantly sought combat applications for every technique. "Energy is not merely for destruction, Roku. It flows through all living things, connecting us." Roku crossed his arms and frowned. "The stories you tell about other planets, they all have fighters. Why can't I fight too?" "You may learn to fight," Piku conceded. "But first, you must learn control." He held out his hand, creating a small sphere of energy that pulsed with a gentle rhythm. "Can you make this?" Roku's frustration instantly vanished, replaced by excitement at the new challenge. He thrust his palm forward, concentrating intensely. A burst of raw energy exploded from his hand, scorching the nearby flowering bush. "Oops." Roku's shoulders slumped. Instead of scolding him, Elder Piku placed a gentle hand on Roku's shoulder. Your power is great, but wild like a river during storm season. We must build banks to channel it. A small female Yardrat peered around the garden entrance. Unlike most Yardrats, whose skin ranged from pink to purple, hers had a bluish tint that marked her as a member of the spiritually gifted northern clan. Elder Piku, she said softly, Mother sent me to bring you both food. Ah, Nana. Piku smiled warmly. Perfect timing. Perhaps you can show Roku your control exercise while I prepare the meal. Roku's tail swished behind him as he studied the newcomer with curiosity. Though they'd grown up in the same village, Nana's training focused on spiritual techniques rather than physical ones, so their paths rarely crossed. I don't need help, he protested, though his stomach betrayed him with a loud growl. Nana approached without hesitation, unafraid of the young scion despite the scorch marks surrounding him. You're doing it wrong, she said simply. You're trying to push the energy out when you should let it flow. What do you know about energy? Roku challenged, though without real hostility. Nana didn't answer with words. Instead, she raised her hand, and a perfect sphere of light appeared above her palm. Then, with a gentle motion, she split it into 3 smaller orbs that danced in complex patterns. Roku's eyes widened. Whoa! How'd you do that? I don't force it, she explained. I feel it. She took his hand, placing her 3 fingers against his 5. Close your eyes. Can you feel my energy? Roku reluctantly closed his eyes, his face scrunching with concentration. At first, he felt nothing, but then, a warm tingle, like sunshine on skin. I feel it, he exclaimed. It's calm. Now find your own energy, she instructed. It's probably louder, stronger. Roku focused inward, immediately finding a roaring current of power coursing through his body. It felt wild, untamed, exciting but dangerous. It's too much, he murmured, starting to pull his hand away. Nana held firm. Don't fight it. Just, listen to it. Like music. Roku had never been particularly patient, but something about Nana's presence steadied him. He breathed deeply, trying to hear his energy as music rather than a storm. Gradually, the roaring quieted, becoming a steady drumbeat. When he opened his eyes, a small, flickering ball of light hovered over his palm. I did it, he shouted, immediately losing concentration. The energy ball dissipated in a puff of smoke. Ah, man. Nana giggled. Not bad for a first try. Took me months to make one that stayed. Elder Piku watched from the doorway, a knowing smile on his face. Perhaps the young female Yardrat could teach Roku lessons that he, despite his centuries of wisdom, could not. By age 12, Roku had grown tall and lean, his body hardened by relentless training. His wild black hair stood in defiance of gravity, a trait Elder Piku said was common among scions. Though raised among the peaceful Yardrats, Roku's fighting instincts remained strong, driving him to push his body to extremes that worried the elders. Why must I meditate again? Roku groaned, sitting cross-legged in the crystal cave where advanced spiritual training took place. I want to perfect my new technique. Elder Piku, now moving slower with age, settled beside him. The instant transmission is not merely a technique, Roku. It requires spiritual awareness that you still lack. I've been practicing for 3 years. Roku protested. Nana learned it in 2. Nana was born with exceptional spiritual sensitivity, Piku reminded him. And she doesn't try to use it to sneak up on training partners. Roku couldn't suppress a grin. Last week, he'd managed to teleport behind Mori during a sparring session, surprising the older Yardrat so thoroughly that he'd fallen into a decorative pond. The universe is connected by invisible threads, Piku continued, placing 2 fingers on his forehead in the traditional stance for instant transmission. To move between spaces, you must feel these connections, not force your way through them. I know, I know, Roku sighed. He mimicked the gesture, placing 2 fingers against his forehead. Feel, don't push. They sat in silence for several minutes, Roku fighting his natural impatience. He closed his eyes, extending his senses as he'd been taught. At first, he felt nothing but the cool air of the cave and the hard stone beneath him. Then, gradually, he became aware of Elder Piku's energy beside him, a gentle, steady presence like a candle flame. Pushing his awareness further, Roku sensed the village beyond the cave. Dozens of Yardrat energy signatures pulsed in his mind, each distinct. He recognized Nana's immediately, cool blue, quick and graceful. She was at the healing springs, probably practicing her medical techniques. Good, Elder Piku murmured, sensing Roku's extended awareness. Now, choose a destination and visualize the connection between here and there. Roku focused on Nana's energy, imagining a line connecting his position to hers. In his mind, he compressed the distance to nothing, as if folding space itself. Now, move, whispered Piku. With a surge of energy and a soft pop of displaced air, Roku vanished from the cave. An instant later, he appeared at the edge of the healing springs, but misjudged his arrival and tumbled headfirst into the water with a tremendous splash. Roku! Nana yelped as he surfaced, sputtering and laughing. You did it. He pushed his soaked hair from his eyes, grinning triumphantly. I did. Full distance, no problem. The other young Yardrats gathered at the springs backed away nervously. Despite growing up among them, many still feared Roku's alien strength and unpredictability. Only Nana had ever treated him like a normal person. You've ruined my healing infusion, she scolded, though her eyes sparkled with amusement as she gestured to the herbs now floating around the disrupted pool. Sorry, Roku said, not sounding sorry at all. He climbed out of the pool, water streaming from his training clothes. But now I can teleport anywhere on Yardrat. Not quite anywhere, came Elder Piku's voice as he materialized beside them, perfectly dry and composed. You still lack precision. And you failed to consider your landing. Roku's celebration deflated slightly. But I made the distance. Distance is merely one aspect, Piku said. A true master of instant transmission arrives exactly where intended, with awareness of their surroundings. He gestured to the disrupted pool. Help Nana restore her work, then we will continue. As Elder Piku disappeared again, Roku sighed and began gathering the scattered herbs. He never thinks anything's good enough. He worries about you, Nana said, kneeling beside him. Your power grows faster than your control. That's what makes it exciting, Roku argued, his tail swishing behind him. Yesterday I managed to create an energy blast strong enough to shatter one of the crystal spires in the eastern valley. Nana's eyes widened. Those spires are sacred. Why would you do that? I wanted to see if I could, Roku said with a shrug, immediately recognizing from her expression that this was the wrong answer. I was practicing focus. It was the smallest one. This is exactly what Elder Piku means, Nana said, her voice gentle but firm. You have the power to destroy, but not always the wisdom to know when you should. Roku fell silent, chastened. Despite his frustration with Yardrat restrictions, he respected Nana's opinion more than almost anyone's. She was the only one who never seemed afraid of his power, only concerned about how he used it. I'll fix the spire, he promised. Somehow. Nana's expression softened. It's not about fixing what's broken, Roku. It's about thinking before you break it. She touched his arm lightly. Now, help me gather these moonflower petals. They only bloom once a year. As they worked together, Roku found himself studying Nana's movements, efficient, graceful, purposeful. Everything the Yardrats did had intention behind it, nothing wasted. He'd always found that frustrating, preferring instinct and impulse. But watching Nana, he could almost see the appeal of their measured approach to life. There's a trading ship landing tomorrow, Nana mentioned as they finished. From the branch system. Maybe we can go watch. Roku immediately brightened. Really? With aliens from another planet? You're technically an alien too, you know, she teased. Yeah, but I've never met other aliens, he countered excitedly. Maybe they'll be fighters. Nana rolled her eyes. Is fighting all you think about? Not all, Roku protested. I think about food too. Their laughter echoed across the healing springs, a brief moment of normal childhood in a life that had never been ordinary. The trading ships from other systems were Roku's windows to the wider universe. As he and Nana watched from behind a row of crystal formations, he studied the tall, blue-skinned branch merchants with fascination. They look strong, he whispered to Nana. I bet they know fighting techniques we've never seen. They're traders, not warriors, she reminded him, though she watched with equal curiosity. The Yardrat elders exchanged rare healing herbs and spiritual artifacts for technological components and news from across the galaxy. Roku strained to hear their conversations, picking up fragments about distant conflicts and political shifts that meant little to him. Then, a name caught his attention. Frisia's forces have expanded into the Namekian quadrant, one branch trader was saying. Any planet with resources is being subjugated. Frisia. Roku whispered. The name stirred something in him, a vague discomfort he couldn't place. The Emperor who controls most of the galaxy now, Nana explained, having heard the stories during previous trading sessions. They say he's the most powerful being alive. Roku felt a strange tightening in his chest, not quite fear, but something like destiny calling. More powerful than a scion. He destroyed the scion homeworld, one of the younger branch traders suddenly interjected, having overheard them. He approached their hiding spot with a knowing smirk. Planet Vegeta, reduced to space dust. Only a handful of scions survived, all working for Frisia now. Roku froze. Elder Piku had told him his planet was destroyed in a collision with a meteor, a natural disaster. But this trader spoke of deliberate destruction. You're lying, he accused, standing to face the blue-skinned alien. The trader stepped back, surprised by Roku's appearance. What's this? A tailless ape on Yardrat? His eyes narrowed. Wait, that hair, you're a scion. Before Roku could respond, the trader pulled a small device from his belt and aimed it at Roku. Numbers flashed across its screen as it measured his power level. Impossible, the trader gasped. For your age, this reading. Elder Piku suddenly appeared between them, his expression severe. That's quite enough. Our young one's heritage is not for discussion. Elder, you harbor a scion. The trader's voice rose, drawing attention from the others. Does Frisia know about this? Yardrat is neutral territory, Piku stated calmly. We accept all peaceful visitors, regardless of origin. Scions are never peaceful, the trader argued. They're born destroyers. Roku felt rage building inside him, not at the insult to scions, but at the revelation about his planet's destruction. Is it true? He demanded, stepping around Piku to confront the trader. Did this Frisia destroy planet Vegeta? The tension in the trading area was palpable as all activity ceased. The branch captain approached cautiously. It's common knowledge, he said, more diplomatically than his subordinate. Frisia feared the scion's growing power. The meteor story was his cover. Roku turned to Elder Piku, betrayal written across his features. You knew. All this time. The old Yardrat looked genuinely remorseful. I sought to protect you from a truth you weren't ready for. I had a right to know. Roku shouted, his power flaring visibly around him. The ground beneath his feet cracked as his aura pulsed with angry energy. The branch traders backed away in alarm, several reaching for weapons. Control, Roku, Elder Piku said firmly. Remember your training. Roku struggled, his scion rage threatening to overwhelm years of Yardrat discipline. His hands clenched so tightly that blood seeped from his palms where his nails dug in. Then he felt a cool hand on his arm. "Roku," Nana said softly. "Breathe." Her touch anchored him, giving him something to focus on beyond his anger. He inhaled deeply, using the centering technique she'd taught him years ago by the healing springs. Gradually, his aura receded, though his eyes remained hard. "We will discuss this," Elder Piku promised him quietly. "But not here." The trading session resumed with palpable unease. As the elders finished their business, Roku noticed the younger branch trader speaking urgently into a communication device, repeatedly glancing in his direction. "He's reporting about me, isn't he?" Roku asked Nana. She nodded grimly. "Word of a scion on Yardrat will spread." "Good," Roku said, surprising her with the intensity in his voice. "Let it spread. Let this Frisia know not all scions died." "Roku, no," Nana whispered, genuine fear in her eyes. "Frisia destroys entire planets. If he learns about you, then I'll become strong enough to face him," Roku interrupted, a new determination hardening his features. "I'm going to train harder than ever." As they walked back toward the village, Roku felt a shift inside himself, as if a missing piece had finally clicked into place. He wasn't just a strange alien being raised by Yardrats. He was a survivor. The last free scion, perhaps. And somehow, he knew that mattered. In the months that followed, Roku's training intensified to levels that alarmed the Yardrat elders. Day and night, he pushed himself beyond all previous limits, combining scion strength with Yardrat techniques in ways never before attempted. Again, he shouted at Mori, his newest training partner since Elder Piku had deemed their sessions too dangerous for his aging body. Mori, exhausted from hours of combat, raised his hands. "Enough, Roku. We've been at this since sunrise." Frisia wouldn't stop, Roku insisted, his body covered in sweat but his energy barely diminished. "So I can't either." Since learning the truth about planet Vegeta, Roku had become obsessed with increasing his power. The once reluctant meditation student now spent hours in deep concentration, perfecting his energy control. His instant transmission technique had improved dramatically, allowing him to teleport with split-second precision. "Your fixation on Frisia concerns us," Elder Piku said during an evening council session that Roku was required to attend. "Vengeance is not the Yardrat way." "I'm not a Yardrat," Roku replied bluntly. "I'm a scion." The words hung in the air, creating a painful silence. For 12 years, the Yardrats had raised him as one of their own, teaching him their ways despite his alien biology and temperament. Now, for the first time, he was explicitly rejecting that identity. "You are both," Elder Piku finally said. "The strength of a scion with the wisdom of Yardrat. That combination makes you unique in the universe, Roku. But if you abandon half of yourself, you will never reach your true potential." Roku wanted to argue but found he couldn't. Despite his newfound focus on his scion heritage, he couldn't deny that Yardrat techniques had become integral to his fighting style. His ability to teleport mid-battle, to sense energy across vast distances, to control his power with precision, these were all gifts from his adoptive people. "I don't want to abandon anything," he admitted more softly. "But I can't ignore what happened to my planet. To my real parents. Understanding your past doesn't require forsaking your present," Elder Piku counseled. "The path of the warrior can coexist with the path of wisdom." Later that night, unable to sleep, Roku sat atop one of the crystal spires overlooking the village. The 6 moons of Yardrat cast multiple shadows across the landscape, creating an ethereal pattern of light and dark. He sensed Nana's approach before he heard her energy signature as familiar to him now as his own. "Can't sleep either?" she asked, carefully climbing up to sit beside him. "Too much on my mind," he admitted. "You worried the council today," she said. "They fear losing you to anger." Roku stared up at the stars, wondering which distant point might be where planet Vegeta once existed. Sometimes I feel like I'm being pulled in two directions. The scion in me wants to fight, to get stronger, to face Frisia directly. The Yardrat in me. What does the Yardrat in you want? Nana prompted when he trailed off. Peace, he said simply. Understanding. To protect rather than destroy. They sat in companionable silence for a while, watching the moons traverse the night sky. You don't have to choose, Nana finally said. Your scion strength and Yardrat wisdom together make you who you are. Neither alone would be the whole Roku. He turned to look at her, struck by the simple truth of her words. In the moonlight, her blue-tinted skin seemed to glow with an inner light, and Roku felt a strange flutter in his chest that had nothing to do with fighting or power levels. When did you get so smart? He asked with a small smile. I've always been smart, she retorted. You've just been too busy punching things to notice. They laughed together, the tension of recent weeks momentarily forgotten. As their laughter faded, Roku made a decision. I'm still going to train harder than ever, he said. But not just for revenge. To protect Yardrat too. This is my home, and you're my people. Nana's eyes widened slightly at the intensity in his voice. We're lucky to have you, she said softly. The moment was shattered by a distant explosion that lit up the night sky. Both leapt to their feet as a second blast followed, closer to the village. What's happening? Nana gasped. Roku's expression hardened as he reached out with his senses. Intruders. Strong ones. He placed 2 fingers to his forehead. I'm going to check. Stay here. Be careful. Nana called as he vanished. Roku reappeared at the edge of the village, immediately assessing the situation. 3 ships had landed in the valley, their designs unlike the usual trading vessels. Armed figures poured from the ships, firing energy weapons indiscriminately. Space pirates, growled a voice beside him. Roku turned to find Elder Piku, his normally peaceful expression replaced by grim determination. What do they want? Roku asked, watching as the Yardrat defenders teleported civilians to safety. Our artifacts, our healing technologies, Piku explained. They've tried before, centuries ago. We repelled them with teleportation defenses. Another explosion rocked the ground as the pirates blasted one of the Elder Council buildings. Teleportation won't stop those energy cannons, Roku said, feeling his power rising in response to the threat. We need to take the fight to them. Elder Piku placed a restraining hand on his shoulder. Roku, these are dangerous criminals, but Roku had already vanished. He reappeared directly in front of the lead pirate, a hulking reptilian being with cybernetic enhancements. Leave, Roku commanded, his voice carrying more authority than his youthful appearance suggested. Now. The pirate leader laughed, a harsh grating sound. What's this? The Yardrat sending children to fight now? I'm no Yardrat, Roku said, his tail unwrapping from his waist to lash behind him. I'm a scion. The leader's laughter died abruptly, his reptilian eyes narrowing. Scions were exterminated years ago. Not all of us. Roku dropped into a fighting stance, energy beginning to swirl around his body. Last chance. Leave Yardrat in peace. In answer, the pirate leader raised his weapon and fired. Roku vanished an instant before the energy blast would have hit him, reappearing behind the leader and delivering a powerful kick that sent the reptilian crashing into his own ship. The other pirates opened fire, filling the air with energy blasts. Roku moved with incredible speed, dodging or deflecting each shot. When cornered, he teleported to a new position, confusing his attackers. How is he doing that? One pirate shouted. He's just a kid. Roku gathered energy in his palm, compressing it into a tight sphere as Nana had taught him years ago. Instead of letting it explode wildly, he controlled its release, sending a precise beam through the pirate's main energy cannon. The weapon exploded, taking half their ship with it. He's not just teleporting, another pirate realized. He's fighting like a scion but moving like a Yardrat. The pirate leader staggered from the wreckage of his ship, blood streaming from a gash on his scaled head. Full attack. Take him down. 20 pirates surrounded Roku, firing simultaneously. He teleported above them and unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, careful to target only the pirates and their ships, avoiding the Yardrat structures. As the battle intensified, Roku found a strange clarity in combat. The scion instincts that had always simmered below the surface now worked in perfect harmony with his Yardrat training. He didn't need to think about teleporting, his body simply moved through space as needed, appearing where attacks weren't, striking where defenses were weakest. When 3 pirates managed to corner him against a crystal formation, Roku didn't panic. He placed 2 fingers to his forehead, vanished, and reappeared with 5 Yardrat defenders, who immediately engaged the surprised pirates. Coordinated defense, Roku called to the Yardrats. I'll take out their ships. With their escape route threatened, the pirates began to retreat. Roku teleported directly into the engine room of their largest vessel, carefully placing focused energy blasts at key points before teleporting out. The ship exploded spectacularly, forcing the pirates to crowd onto their one remaining vessel. The pirate leader, now desperate, grabbed a young Yardrat who hadn't teleported away quickly enough. "Stop or this one dies," he shouted, holding an energy blade to his hostage's throat. Roku froze, assessing the situation. The leader stood 50 yards away, too far to reach before he could harm the hostage, even with Roku's speed. "Let's talk terms," the leader growled. "We leave with our remaining ship and whatever we've already collected, and your little friend here lives." Roku locked eyes with the terrified young Yardrat, recognizing one of Nana's cousins. He nodded slightly, hoping the youngster would understand, then closed his eyes as if surrendering. In reality, he was focusing intensely on the specific energy signature of the small space between the pirate leader and his hostage. It was a technique he'd been developing but hadn't yet mastered, pinpoint teleportation to a position he could sense but not see. "Smart choice," the leader began, but never finished his sentence. Roku appeared in the inch of space between captor and hostage, his back to the young Yardrat. In the same motion, he drove his elbow into the pirate's solar plexus while grabbing the arm that held the energy blade. "Run," he shouted to the hostage, who immediately teleported to safety. The pirate leader, despite his injury, was formidable in close combat. His cybernetic arm transformed into a brutal weapon that caught Roku across the chest, tearing his training clothes and drawing blood. "You'll fetch a fine price on the market," the leader snarled. "A living scion. Frisia might even pay personally for you." The mention of Frisia triggered something primal in Roku. With a roar of rage, he unleashed his full power, his aura flaring golden for just an instant before settling back to its normal white. The surge was enough to blast the pirate leader backward, his cybernetics sparking from the energy overload. Before the leader could recover, Roku teleported directly in front of him, his expression coldly determined. "You won't take anything from this planet." He delivered a precisely targeted strike to the leader's neck, rendering him unconscious. The remaining pirates, seeing their leader fall, scrambled into their damaged ship and took off, leaving much of their plundered goods behind. As the ship disappeared into the atmosphere, Roku finally allowed himself to relax. The battle had been intense but exhilarating, the first real test of his combined Scion and Yardrat abilities. Elder Piku appeared beside him, surveying the aftermath. "You fought well," he admitted, though concern lined his ancient face. "But that moment of rage, did you feel it?" Roku nodded, remembering the golden flash in his aura. "Something changed when he mentioned Frisia. My power, it felt different." "There are legends about Scions achieving a transformed state in moments of extreme emotion," Piku said thoughtfully. "A golden warrior of immense power." "Super Scion," Roku whispered, the term coming to him from somewhere deep in his racial memory. "That's what it's called." Before they could discuss it further, Nana teleported to the scene, immediately rushing to check Roku's wounds. "You're hurt." "It's nothing," he insisted, though the gash across his chest stung considerably. "Sit," she commanded, already pulling healing salve from her pouch. As she treated his wound, her hands trembling slightly, she asked, "What happened?" "We could see the explosions from the village." "Roku happened," said one of the Yardrat defenders, approaching with obvious respect. "He fought like no warrior I've ever seen, teleporting mid-attack, striking from impossible angles, predicting movements before they occurred." Other Yardrats gathered around, their fear of Roku's alien nature now replaced by gratitude and admiration. For the first time since arriving on Yardrat, Roku felt truly accepted for exactly what he was, both scion and Yardrat, both warrior and protector. "The pirates mentioned selling me to Frisia," Roku told Elder Piku as Nana finished bandaging his chest. "Word of a scion on Yardrat has definitely spread." Piku's expression grew troubled. "Then our time of isolation is ending. If Frisia takes interest in you, nowhere on Yardrat will be safe." "I won't hide," Roku declared, standing tall despite his injuries. "If Frisia comes, I'll be ready." Looking at the young scion, bloodied but unbowed, power radiating from him in waves even at rest, Elder Piku believed him. For 12 years, they had raised Roku to balance his scion's strength with Yardrat wisdom. Today, they had glimpsed the result, a warrior unlike any the universe had seen before. "Your training intensifies tomorrow," Piku decided. "Not just for power, but for precision. Not just for combat, but for control." Roku nodded solemnly, understanding the responsibility that came with his growing abilities. As the Yardrats worked to repair the damage from the battle, he gazed up at the stars once more, feeling both more connected to his lost scion heritage and more committed to his Yardrat home than ever before. Somewhere out there, a tyrant named Frisia had destroyed his birth planet and slaughtered his race. Someday, Roku would be strong enough to face him. But he would do so not just as a scion seeking vengeance, but as a defender of Yardrat, combining the best of both worlds that had shaped him. "Come on," Nana said, tugging at his arm. "You need rest if you're going to train tomorrow." As they walked back toward the village, Roku felt a new certainty in his path forward. The universe was larger and more dangerous than he'd imagined, but he was no longer just a child with unusual powers. He was Roku of Yardrat, the scion raised in peace but trained for battle, and his legend was just beginning. Chapter 2, Blood and Bond. 3 years passed since the pirate attack, and Roku's reputation spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The scion of Yardrat, a warrior who could teleport between attacks, appearing and disappearing at will during battle. With each passing cycle, his powers grew, fueled by rigorous training that merged scion strength with Yardrat's spiritual techniques. Roku had just turned 15, his body now taller and more muscular than most adult Yardrats. His wild black hair remained untamable, a distinctive scion trait that stood in stark contrast to the smooth heads of his adoptive people. "Focus, Roku." Elder Piku called from his meditation platform, where he watched Roku spar with 5 of Yardrat's most skilled defenders simultaneously. Roku grinned as he dodged a coordinated attack, teleporting behind one opponent and sweeping his legs before vanishing again as energy blasts converged on his position. He reappeared above the group, firing precisely calibrated energy shots that knocked 2 defenders off their feet. "They're too predictable," Roku complained, though his breathing remained steady despite the intense combat. "I can feel their energy shifting before they even move." Elder Piku sighed. "Perhaps you've outgrown what Yardrat can offer in combat training." The remaining 3 defenders launched a triangle formation attack, a strategy that had once challenged Roku. Now he simply placed 2 fingers to his forehead and teleported directly to the center of their formation, releasing a controlled burst of energy that sent all 3 sprawling. "Match complete," announced Mori, who had transitioned from training partner to combat referee as Roku's abilities surpassed his own. "Roku wins." Again. The defeated Yardrats bowed respectfully before teleporting away to recover. Unlike years past, when many had feared Roku's alien strength, now they sought to train with him, hoping to absorb some of his combat insights. "Your power grows impressive," Elder Piku acknowledged, approaching his adopted charge. But I sense restlessness in you. Roku couldn't deny it. Despite mastering increasingly complex Yardrat techniques, he felt an inexplicable pull towards something more, something beyond the peaceful planet that had been his home for 15 years. I need stronger opponents, Roku admitted, wiping sweat from his brow. No offense to our defenders, but your scion blood calls for greater challenges, Piku finished for him. It is the nature of your race. Before Roku could respond, Nana teleported directly to the training grounds, her expression urgent. At 18, she had grown into a skilled healer, her natural spiritual sensitivity enhanced by years of dedicated study. Ships approaching, she reported, slightly breathless. Not traders. They've bypassed the regular landing areas and headed straight for the central plateau. Roku and Elder Piku exchanged a glance. Pirates again? Roku asked, already preparing for battle. No, Nana said, her voice dropping. Their energy feels different. Powerful. And one of the ships bears the insignia of the Planet Trade Organization. Frisia's forces, Elder Piku murmured, his ancient features tightening with concern. Roku felt a surge of both excitement and apprehension. For years he had trained with the distant goal of someday confronting Frisia, the destroyer of planet Vegeta. Now, it seemed, Frisia's attention had found him first. I'll meet them, he declared, already placing his fingers to his forehead. Not alone, Elder Piku insisted, placing a restraining hand on Roku's arm. We will go together, with a proper Yardrat delegation. If these are Frisia's soldiers, diplomacy may serve better than immediate confrontation. Roku wanted to argue but recognized the wisdom in Piku's approach. Fine, he conceded. But if they threaten Yardrat, diplomacy ends. Minutes later, Roku stood with Elder Piku and the Council of Elders at the central plateau, watching as two sleek ships descended through Yardrat's atmosphere. The larger vessel bore obvious battle damage, with scorch marks along its hull. Stay alert, Roku murmured to Nana, who had insisted on joining them despite the potential danger. If anything happens, teleport back to the village and warn everyone. The ships landed with precision, their engines powering down with an ominous whine. For several moments, nothing happened. Then the main hatch of the larger ship hissed open, revealing a short, powerfully built figure silhouetted against the interior lights. That's not one of Frisia's regular soldiers, Elder Piku whispered. The energy signature is too strong. The figure stepped onto Yardrat soil, followed by a much larger, bald companion. Both wore distinctive armor with shoulder guards, battle suits that Roku somehow recognized despite never having seen them before. A strange feeling of déjà vu washed over him as he took in their appearances, the smaller one with flame-like hair standing straight up, the larger one with a mustache and a brutish expression. Most striking of all, both had tails wrapped around their waists, exactly like Roku's own. Science, Roku breathed, his heart pounding suddenly. The flame-haired scion surveyed the welcoming party with obvious disdain before his eyes locked on Roku. For a long moment, the two scions stared at each other, an unspoken recognition passing between them. Well, the visitor finally said, his voice carrying a regal arrogance. So the rumors are true. A scion raised. By these teleporting pink weaklings. Elder Piku stepped forward, seemingly unperturbed by the insult. Welcome to Planet Yardrat. I am Elder Piku, and we extend peaceful greetings to all visitors. The smaller scion smirked. I am Vegeta, Prince of all Scions. He gestured to his companion. This is Nappa, my general. Prince. Roku couldn't help interrupting. Prince of what? Planet Vegeta was destroyed. Vegeta's eyes narrowed dangerously. Prince by blood and birthright, boy. Something you'd understand if you hadn't been raised by these creatures. Nappa chuckled, the sound rumbling like distant thunder. Look at him, Vegeta. Dressed like them, standing with them. Probably thinks he's one of them. Roku felt his temper flaring but controlled it with practiced discipline. I'm Roku of Yardrat. Why have you come here? Roku? Vegeta scoffed. Not even a proper Saiyan name. Your real name would be Kakarot, third-class warrior, son of Bardock. The name struck Roku like a physical blow. Kakarot. Something deep within him responded to it, as if a dormant part of his being had been activated. How would you know that? He demanded. Because I am the prince of our race, Vegeta replied coldly. I know every Saiyan who was off-planet when Frieza destroyed our world. You were an infant, sent to conquer some backwater planet called Earth. Your pod must have been damaged in the planet's destruction, sending you here instead. Elder Piku placed a calming hand on Roku's shoulder. Perhaps we should continue this discussion somewhere more comfortable. Our council chambers, we didn't come for hospitality, Vegeta interrupted. We came to see if the rumors of another Saiyan survivor were true. His gaze swept over Roku assessingly. Though I must say, I'm disappointed by what I've found. Roku bridled at the dismissal. What's that supposed to mean? It means, Nappa interjected, that real Saiyans don't play nice with weaklings. Real Saiyans conquer, destroy. It's in our blood. You work for Frieza, Roku countered, remembering what Vegeta had said about surviving Saiyans. The same Frieza who destroyed our planet. How does that make you real Saiyans? Vegeta moved so quickly that even Roku's trained eyes barely tracked him. Suddenly the Saiyan prince was directly in front of him, their faces inches apart. Careful, boy, Vegeta growled, his power palpable in the air between them. You know nothing of what it means to be Saiyan. Nothing of what we've endured. Instead of backing down, Roku met Vegeta's gaze steadily. Then tell me. Tell me about our people, our world. Tell me why you serve the monster who destroyed everything we had. Something flickered in Vegeta's expression, surprise, perhaps, at the direct challenge from this young Saiyan who should have been cowering before his prince. We serve no one, Vegeta said coldly. We bide our time, growing stronger. And when the moment is right, he didn't finish, but his meaning was clear. Nappa stepped forward, activating a device on his face that covered one eye with a green lens. Let's see what we're dealing with here, he said, pressing a button on the device. Numbers flashed across the lens as he scanned Roku. Power level, interesting. Not bad for a kid raised by pacifists. Still nothing compared to a true elite like Prince Vegeta, though. Roku felt an inexplicable need to prove himself to these Saiyans, these connections to his lost heritage. Want to test that assessment? Elder Piku intervened. Perhaps our guests would like refreshment first. Space travel is taxing. Our ships were attacked on the way here, Vegeta said, seemingly bored with the conversation now. Frieza's pet squad, the Jinyu Force, intercepted us when we diverted from our assigned mission. We managed to escape, but we need repairs before we can leave. Attacked? Roku frowned. Why would Frieza attack his own soldiers? A cold smile curved Vegeta's lips. Because, boy, we're not exactly following orders at the moment. Our presence here is unauthorized. The implications sank in. Immediately. Vegeta and Nappa had defied Frieza to seek out rumors of another Saiyan survivor. Whether from loyalty to their race or simply to add another warrior to their ranks remained unclear. We can offer technical assistance, Elder Piku said diplomatically. Yardrat has knowledge of various spacecraft systems. How generous, Vegeta replied sarcastically. While your mechanics tinker with our ships, perhaps Kakarot here can show me exactly what kind of warrior he's become under your tutelage. Nappa grinned maliciously. A demonstration would be enlightening. Roku understood the challenge for what it was, a test, Saiyan to Saiyan. Despite Elder Piku's concerned expression, he nodded. The Eastern Training Grounds. Open space, away from the village. Lead the way, Roku, Vegeta said, emphasizing the adopted name with clear disdain. As they walked, Nana fell into step beside Roku. "Be careful," she whispered. "Their energy feels wrong. Especially the smaller one." "He's stronger than he looks," Roku agreed. "Much stronger." "That's not what I meant," Nana said. "There's darkness there, Roku. Pain and rage and something broken." Roku glanced at the back of Vegeta's head as they walked. The Scion Prince carried himself with absolute confidence, yet Nana's observation resonated with something he sensed himself, a complex tangle of emotions beneath Vegeta's arrogant exterior. The eastern training ground spread before them, a vast expanse of purple soil dotted with crystalline formations. Roku had spent countless hours here perfecting his techniques, but never had he faced an opponent like the one now standing across from him, a full-blooded Scion warrior, raised in the traditions of their race. "No rules," Vegeta announced, removing his scouter and handing it to Nappa. "Show me what these Yardrats have taught you, Kakarot." "My name is Roku," he insisted, dropping into a fighting stance that blended Yardrat precision with Scion power. Vegeta's response was a blur of motion as he launched himself forward with startling speed. Roku barely had time to block the first punch, the impact sending shockwaves up his arm. The Scion Prince followed with a flurry of strikes, each delivered with precision and devastating force. Roku found himself on the defensive immediately, surprised by Vegeta's speed and technique. The prince fought with a refined brutality that spoke of years of intense battle experience. "Is this all?" Vegeta taunted as he landed a solid kick to Roku's midsection, sending him skidding backward. "Has living among weaklings made you forget what it means to fight like a Scion?" Rather than respond with words, Roku vanished, teleporting behind Vegeta and launching a powerful counterattack. The prince's eyes widened momentarily at the teleportation, but he recovered quickly, blocking most of Roku's strikes. "Interesting trick," Vegeta acknowledged, jumping back to create distance. "The famed Yardrat teleportation technique. Useful, but it won't save you from a superior warrior." Roku smiled for the first time since the encounter began. "It's called instant transmission. And it's just one of my techniques." He placed 2 fingers to his forehead and disappeared again, but this time, instead of reappearing immediately, he remained in the teleportation state for several seconds, his energy signature untraceable. Vegeta turned in circles, his expression darkening with frustration. "Hiding is not fighting, boy." Roku materialized directly above Vegeta, both hands clasped together as he hammered down with considerable force. The prince managed to cross his arms in defense, but the blow still drove him into the ground, creating a small crater on impact. "Not hiding," Roku said as he landed. "Strategic positioning." Vegeta exploded from the crater, a purple aura of energy surrounding him as his power level spiked dramatically. Enough games. What followed was unlike any training match Roku had ever experienced. Vegeta attacked with the full fury of a Scion elite, his techniques refined through countless battles across the galaxy. His power eclipsed Roku's, but the younger Scion compensated with his unique blend of teleportation and energy manipulation. When Vegeta fired a devastating energy blast, Roku didn't dodge, he teleported directly into the beam's path, his hands forward in the Yardrat energy-splitting technique. The purple beam divided around him, harmlessly dispersing into the sky. "Impossible!" Nappa shouted from the sidelines. "He split the Gallic gun." Vegeta's expression shifted from anger to calculated interest. Perhaps there's something to these Yardrat techniques after all. The battle intensified, neither combatant willing to concede. Roku found himself pushed beyond any previous limits, his body responding to the challenge with typical Scion adaptation. Each time Vegeta seemed to gain the upper hand, Roku would teleport to safety, regroup, and attack from an unexpected angle. "You fight like no Scion I've ever seen," Vegeta admitted after landing a particularly brutal combination that left Roku gasping for breath. "But you still lack the killer instinct. The true Scion desire for domination." Roku wiped blood from his lip. "Maybe that's not a weakness. Maybe understanding when not to destroy is its own kind of strength. Philosophy won't save you from Frisia, Vegeta countered, his voice suddenly serious. Or from what's coming to the galaxy. Before Roku could ask what he meant, Vegeta launched another attack, this one clearly designed to end the match. His fist connected with Roku's jaw with such force that the young scion was sent flying backward into one of the crystal formations, shattering it completely. Nana started forward in concern, but Elder Piku held her back. "This is a scion matter," he murmured. "Roku must find his own path." For a moment, Roku lay amid the crystal shards, his body aching from Vegeta's assault. Then, slowly, he pushed himself to his feet, a new determination in his eyes. "My turn," he said quietly. He raised his power level higher than he ever had before, drawing on energy reserves he developed through years of Yardrat spiritual training. His white aura expanded around him, crackling with intensity as the ground beneath his feet began to crack. "What's this?" Vegeta smirked. "A final desperate push. You're still no match for an elite." Roku didn't waste energy on a response. Instead, he teleported, but not to attack. He appeared 50 feet above the battlefield, his hands cupped at his side as blue energy gathered between them. "Ka-me." The energy sphere grew, pulsing with power as Roku focused his life force into the attack. "Ha-me." Vegeta's scouter, still held by Nappa, suddenly exploded as it tried to measure the rapidly increasing power level. "Vegeta!" Nappa shouted in warning. "His power is spiking exponentially." The Scion Prince stared upward, genuine surprise evident on his face as he felt the enormous energy building above him. "Ha!" Roku thrust his hands forward, releasing a massive blue beam of concentrated energy directly at Vegeta. The attack moved with incredible speed, giving the Scion Prince barely enough time to respond with his own energy shield. The blue beam collided with Vegeta's defense, creating a spectacular energy clash that illuminated the entire training ground. For several seconds, Vegeta held his ground, his boots digging trenches in the soil as he was pushed backward by the force of Roku's attack. "Impossible!" Vegeta growled through gritted teeth. "No third-class warrior should have this power." With a roar of effort, the prince managed to deflect the beam upward, sending it harmlessly into space. He stood breathing heavily, his armor cracked and smoking from the energy collision. Roku teleported back to ground level, also breathing hard from the exertion of his most powerful attack. What was that technique?" Vegeta demanded. "No Scion uses blue energy waves like that." "The Kamehameha," Roku replied. "I developed it by studying energy manipulation principles from Yardrat's spiritual texts. Concentrated life force, focused and amplified." A complex mix of emotions crossed Vegeta's face, anger, surprise, and something that might have been reluctant respect. "You're no ordinary third class," he finally said. "You've created something unique with these Yardrat teachings." His eyes narrowed. "But you still fight with restraint. In a real battle, against enemies like Frisia, that hesitation will get you killed." Before Roku could respond, a thunderous explosion rocked the ground beneath their feet. All eyes turned toward the village, where a plume of smoke now rose against the purple sky. "The ships!" Nappa exclaimed. "Someone's attacking." Roku immediately placed his fingers to his forehead, concentrating on the familiar energy signatures of the village. "I'll check, wait," Vegeta commanded, surprising him. "It could be the Jinyu Force. They must have tracked us here." "Who are the Jinyu Force?" Roku asked, though he kept his fingers at his forehead, ready to teleport. "Frisia's elite squad," Nappa explained. 5 warriors, each with special abilities. They're sent for high-priority targets or problematic assets. "Like rogue scions," Vegeta added grimly. Another explosion echoed across the landscape. Roku made his decision instantly. "I don't care who they are. They're attacking my home." He vanished before Vegeta could stop him, teleporting directly to the center of the village. The scene that greeted him was chaos. 3 spacecraft, designs unlike any he'd seen before, had landed among the Yardrat dwellings. Warriors in distinctive armor were systematically destroying buildings and rounding up Yardrats who couldn't teleport away quickly enough. "Find the Scions," shouted a purple-skinned alien with horns. "Lord Frisia wants them alive if possible, dead if necessary." Roku didn't hesitate. He teleported directly in front of the apparent leader, his expression hard. "Looking for me?" The alien blinked in surprise, then smiled wickedly. "Well, that was easy. Captain Jinyu will be pleased." He activated his scouter, scanning Roku. Decent power level for a young scion. Still nothing special. "Leave this planet," Roku commanded. "Your quarrel is with me, not the Yardrats." The purple alien laughed. "I'm Jinyu Force Commander Chui, and I don't take orders from monkeys. Besides, Lord Frisia was very specific, any planet harboring fugitive scions is to be repurposed." Roku felt cold rage building inside him. Repurposed? Cleared of indigenous life forms, Chui clarified with casual cruelty. "Starting with these teleporting freaks." To demonstrate his point, Chui fired an energy blast at a nearby Yardrat dwelling, obliterating it instantly. Roku moved without thinking, teleporting into the path of a second blast meant for a group of fleeing Yardrat children. He deflected it skyward, his aura flaring with anger. "Wrong move," he growled. The battle that followed was nothing like the controlled match with Vegeta. Roku attacked with focused fury, his teleportation giving him a decisive advantage against the surprised Chui. He appeared and disappeared around the alien commander, landing devastating blows from multiple angles before Chui could track his movements. "Stand still, you teleporting monkey!" Chui shouted in frustration, firing energy blasts wildly. "Make me," Roku replied, appearing directly above Chui and driving both feet into the alien's head, smashing him face first into the ground. As Chui struggled to rise, bleeding from multiple wounds, the rest of his squadron converged on Roku, 6 trained warriors, all wearing Frisia Force armor and scouters. "Surround him," one shouted. "Don't let him teleport away." Roku found himself momentarily overwhelmed by the coordinated attack. These weren't pirates or training partners, they were experienced killers who worked as a unit. For every blow he landed, he took 2 in return, gradually being worn down by their superior numbers. A powerful kick sent him crashing through the wall of the healing center. As he struggled to his feet, he saw Nana inside, frantically gathering medical supplies. "Roku," she gasped. "The village, they're destroying everything. Get everyone to safety," he ordered, wiping blood from his face. "I'll handle these guys." "There are too many," she argued. "And more ships are coming, I can feel them approaching." Before Roku could respond, the wall behind Nana exploded inward. Chui stood in the newly created hole, his face twisted with malice. "Found your weakness," he snarled, firing an energy beam directly at Nana. "No." Roku teleported instantly, placing himself between Nana and the deadly beam. He managed to deflect most of the energy, but some of it seared across his chest, burning through his training clothes and into his flesh. Nana screamed as Roku fell to one knee, clutching his burned chest. "Roku! How touching," Chui mocked. "The Scion cares for these creatures." He raised his hand again, energy gathering for a killing blow. "Lord Frisia will understand if I bring you back in pieces." A blue energy beam suddenly pierced through Chui's chest from behind. The alien commander looked down in shock at the hole in his torso, then collapsed forward, revealing Vegeta standing in the doorway, his hands still extended from the attack. "Pathetic as always, Chui," Vegeta sneered at the dying alien. "Never could fight properly." Roku stared at Vegeta in surprise. "You helped me." "I helped myself," Vegeta corrected coldly. "Frisia's forces are here for all Scions, not just you." He glanced at Nana, who was already applying healing salve to Roku's chest wound. Your attachment to these aliens makes you vulnerable. A true scion fights alone, relies on no one. Despite his harsh words, Vegeta extended a hand, pulling Roku to his feet. The Ginyu Force will be here soon. We need to leave immediately. I'm not abandoning Yardrat, Roku stated firmly. Don't be a fool. This planet is already lost. Frieza will destroy it with or without us here. Nana finished applying the healing salve, her hands trembling but her voice steady. Roku, he's right. We need to evacuate everyone. The Council has already activated the emergency teleportation network to the sanctuary caves. More explosions rocked the village as Frieza's forces continued their assault. Outside, Roku could sense Nappa engaged in battle with multiple opponents, his power level fluctuating with exertion. Fine, Roku conceded. We evacuate first, then counterattack. Vegeta rolled his eyes. Sentimental nonsense. But have it your way. Together, they fought their way out of the healing center. Roku was surprised to find himself naturally coordinating attacks with Vegeta, as if some instinctive Saiyan battle sense allowed them to anticipate each other's movements. Where Vegeta attacked with raw power and precision, Roku complemented with teleportation and energy manipulation, creating an unexpectedly effective combination. They reached the village center to find Nappa surrounded by the bodies of defeated soldiers, though the large Saiyan was clearly wounded, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. About time, Nappa grunted. These weaklings are just the advance force. My scouter detected 5 large power levels approaching before it was destroyed. The Ginyu Force, Vegeta confirmed grimly. We need to leave now. Elder Piku suddenly teleported beside them, his ancient face lined with sorrow at the destruction around them. Our people are evacuating to the sanctuary. You must go as well, Roku. I'll help finish the evacuation, Roku insisted. I can teleport the wounded faster than anyone. No time, Vegeta interrupted. Look. 5 streaks of light cut across the sky, heading directly toward them. Even at a distance, Roku could sense the immense power approaching, far beyond anything he'd faced before. Roku, Elder Piku said urgently. You must go with the other Scions. Yardrat can rebuild, but you have a greater destiny. One that extends beyond our world. I can't just run, Roku protested. It's not running, it's surviving to fight another day, Vegeta snapped. A concept your Yardrat mentors should appreciate. Nana approached, carrying a small pouch of healing items. Take these, she said, pressing them into Roku's hand. And take this. She reached up, removing a crystal pendant from around her neck and placing it over Roku's head. For focus during teleportation across great distances. Nana, Roku began, but she cut him off. Go. Become stronger. Then return. Her eyes held a certainty that steadied him. This is not goodbye, Roku. Just distance. The 5 approaching energy signatures were now close enough that Roku could feel their individual powers, each formidable, one particularly massive. Elder Piku placed a hand on Roku's shoulder. Remember all you have learned here, child of 2 worlds. Balance your Scion strength with Yardrat wisdom, and you will find power beyond measure. With a final, reluctant nod, Roku turned to Vegeta and Nappa. Where to? Our backup ship is hidden in the western mountains, Vegeta replied. If it's still intact, we can reach it before the Ginyu Force realizes we've fled. I know those mountains, Roku said, placing one hand on Vegeta's shoulder and the other on Nappa's. Hold on. With a last look at Nana and Elder Piku, Roku teleported, taking the other Scions with him. They reappeared instantaneously at the base of the western mountain range, where a small pod-like ship sat camouflaged among crystalline formations. Impressive range, Vegeta acknowledged reluctantly as they hurried toward the ship. That teleportation technique could prove useful. Ship seems intact, Nappa reported after a quick inspection. But it's built for 2, not 3. It'll be tight. Roku hesitated, looking back toward the distant village where columns of smoke now rose into the purple sky. I should go back. Help them fight, and die pointlessly? Vegeta scoffed. You're powerful for your age, but the Jinyu force would destroy you. Even I'm not ready to face their captain yet. Then where do we go? Roku demanded. Just run forever. Not forever, Vegeta replied, a dangerous gleam in his eyes. We train. We grow stronger. And when the time is right, we take Frieza down. The sincerity in the prince's voice surprised Roku. Despite his arrogance and cruelty, Vegeta truly believed they could someday challenge the tyrant who had destroyed their homeworld. Get in, Vegeta ordered, opening the ship's hatch. We need to break orbit before. A massive explosion lit up the sky over the village, the shockwave reaching them even at this distance. Roku felt a sudden, sharp pain in his chest that had nothing to do with his physical wound. Nana, he whispered, reaching out with his senses. To his relief, he could still feel her energy signature, though it was fluctuating weakly. Elder Piku's presence was there too, along with many other Yardrats, presumably in the sanctuary caves. But he also sensed 5 extraordinarily powerful beings at the village center, and one energy signature in particular radiated such malice that Roku instinctively recoiled from it. That power. He murmured. Is that Captain Jinyu? Vegeta confirmed grimly. Frieza's most loyal enforcer. Another explosion rocked the distant village. This time, Roku felt Nana's energy signature flicker dangerously, nearly extinguishing before stabilizing at a barely perceptible level. They're dying, he said, his voice hardening. My people are dying. They're not your people, Vegeta reminded him harshly. You're a scion, Kakarot. Born to be a warrior, not a protector of weaklings. Something snapped inside Roku at that moment, not just anger, but a fundamental rejection of the choice being presented to him. He didn't have to be either Scion or Yardrat. He could be both. Should be both. My name, he said quietly, is Roku. His power began to rise, his aura expanding around him. And those weaklings raised me, taught me, accepted me. Don't be a fool. Vegeta shouted. You can't defeat the Jinyu force. But Roku wasn't listening. He placed his fingers to his forehead, focusing on Nana's fading energy signature. Get to safety, he told the other Scions. I'll find you when this is over. Kakarot, wait. Vegeta began, but Roku had already vanished. He reappeared in what remained of the healing center, now half destroyed by the Jinyu force's attack. Nana lay partially buried under rubble, blood seeping from a wound on her head. Nana. Roku gently lifted the debris off her, cradling her small form. I'm here. I'm going to get you to safety. Her eyes fluttered open, recognition dawning through the pain. Roku, you came back. Of course I did, he said fiercely. I'll always come back. How touching, came a mocking voice from the shattered doorway. Roku turned to see a purple-skinned alien with horns standing there, his power level far exceeding Chui's. Behind him stood 4 other beings of various appearances, all radiating considerable strength. The Scion who teleports, the purple alien continued. I am Captain Jinyu, and Lord Frieza is very interested in meeting you. Roku carefully laid Nana down, standing to face the intruders. His power surged as rage built within him, seeing the destruction they'd brought to his peaceful home. You've made a mistake coming here, he said, his voice deadly calm. Captain Jinyu laughed. Bold words from a monkey raised by weaklings. Your power level is impressive for your age, but you're nothing compared to the mighty Jinyu force. On cue, the 5 warriors struck ridiculous poses, calling out their names one by one. Rikum. Berter. Jees. Guldo. Captain Jinyu. Together we are. They shouted in unison, the Jinyu force. Under normal circumstances, Roku might have found their routine almost comically absurd. But with Nana bleeding behind him and the village in ruins around them, he felt only cold fury. I don't care who you are, he said. You hurt my people. You'll pay for that. Oh. And how do you plan to make us pay, little scion? Jinyu mocked. Perhaps with more of those teleporting tricks. Roku didn't waste words on a response. He simply vanished, reappearing behind the shortest member of the force, Guldo, and striking with devastating precision at a pressure point Elder Piku had taught him. The four-eyed alien collapsed instantly, temporarily paralyzed. Guldo, the red-skinned Jees exclaimed. He took out Guldo in one hit. Lucky shot, the massive Rikum growled. Let me show this monkey what real power looks like. What followed was the most challenging battle of Roku's life. Rikum alone possessed strength that dwarfed Vegeta's, and his durability seemed almost unlimited. Roku's strikes, even enhanced with focused energy, barely seemed to faze the giant warrior. Rikum kick, the massive alien shouted, his foot connecting solidly with Roku's ribs, sending him crashing through another wall. Roku teleported to safety, reassessing his strategy. Direct confrontation clearly wouldn't work, the Jinyu force members were too powerful, too experienced. He needed to use his unique abilities more effectively. Drawing on his Yardrat training, Roku began a hit-and-run approach. He would teleport in, land a precisely targeted strike at vulnerable points, then teleport away before they could counterattack. It was working, gradually wearing down even Rikum's stamina, until, enough games, Captain Jinyu announced. Birder, Jees, special maneuver. The blue-skinned birder, who claimed to be the fastest in the universe, suddenly accelerated to incredible speed, creating a purple blur that surrounded Roku from all sides. Simultaneously, Jees began firing energy blasts that Roku had to constantly teleport to avoid. The strategy was cunning. They weren't trying to hit him directly, but to exhaust his energy by forcing continuous teleportation. Roku felt his stamina beginning to wane as he teleported for the 20th time in as many seconds. Running out of steam, monkey boy. Jees taunted, launching another barrage. In desperation, Roku teleported high above the battlefield, buying himself precious seconds to gather energy for a counterattack. He cupped his hands at his side, blue energy swirling between his palms. Ka, me, ha, me. There he is. Birder shouted, pointing upward. Ha. Roku thrust his hands forward, releasing a massive Kamehameha directly at the gathered Jinyu force members. Captain Jinyu smiled confidently, raising one hand to catch the energy beam. To his surprise, the attack was far more powerful than he'd anticipated, forcing him to use both hands and considerable effort to deflect it. Impressive power, Jinyu acknowledged, his armor smoking from the energy. Lord Frisia will be pleased when I bring you in. I'm not going anywhere with you, Roku declared, though his breathing was now labored from exertion. I don't think you understand your situation, Jinyu replied calmly. You're outmatched, outnumbered, and out of options. To demonstrate his point, Rikum suddenly appeared behind Roku, locking him in a powerful hold. Got him, Captain. Roku struggled against the massive alien's grip, but fatigue from the extended battle had sapped his strength. He tried to focus for another teleport, but Rikum's crushing embrace made the concentration impossible. Now then, Captain Jinyu approached, studying Roku with clinical interest. Lord Frisia wants all surviving scions, especially unusual specimens like yourself. The teleportation ability is particularly intriguing. It's called instant transmission, Roku managed through gritted teeth. Want a demonstration? Drawing on his last reserves of energy, Roku focused not on teleporting himself, but on the energy within Rikum's body. It was a technique Elder Piku had theorized but never attempted, energy displacement. With a surge of power and will, Roku reversed the energy flow between himself and Rikum, causing the massive alien to teleport away while Roku remained in place. Rikum reappeared 50 feet above them, disoriented by the unexpected teleportation, and fell heavily to the ground. What the? Captain Jinyu's eyes widened. He teleported Rikum. Roku dropped to one knee, the advanced technique having drained his remaining energy. But he bought himself a few seconds, and that was all he needed. Reaching into the pouch Nana had given him, he quickly swallowed one of the healing beans she prepared, feeling instant revitalization as its properties took effect. Round 2, he announced, rising to his feet with renewed strength. Captain Jinyu's surprised expression hardened into determination. Enough of this. Jinyu Force, full attack pattern. All 4 active members of the force converged on Roku simultaneously. Despite his restored energy, the coordinated assault pushed him to his absolute limits. He teleported constantly, striking where possible, but gradually taking more hits than he delivered. A powerful blow from Rikum sent him crashing to the ground near where Nana lay. Seeing her weakened state rekindled his determination. He couldn't fail, not with her life in the balance. "I won't let you hurt anyone else," he vowed, struggling to his feet despite multiple injuries. Brave words, Captain Jinyu commented. But ultimately meaningless. The purple captain raised his hand, energy gathering for what would clearly be a devastating attack. Roku prepared to teleport, though he wasn't sure he had the strength remaining to take Nana with him. Suddenly, a brilliant blue beam of energy struck Captain Jinyu from behind, catching the commander by surprise. The attack wasn't powerful enough to seriously injure him, but it disrupted his concentration, causing his own energy blast to fire harmlessly into the sky. "Who dares?" Jinyu demanded, spinning around. Vegeta stood at the edge of the clearing, his hand extended from the energy attack. Beside him, Nappa looked ready for battle despite his earlier injuries. "Miss us?" Vegeta asked with a mocking smile. "Prince Vegeta," Jinyu greeted coldly. "Lord Frieza will be doubly pleased. 3 Scions for the price of 1. Roku stared at the 2 Scions in shock. "You came back. Why?" "Don't misunderstand," Vegeta replied, not taking his eyes off the Jinyu Force. "I still think you're a soft-hearted fool. But you're also a Scion, perhaps the last one besides us. And Scions." He didn't finish the sentence, but the meaning was clear enough. Scions stood together. The battle resumed with renewed intensity, now 3 Scions against 4 Jinyu Force members, Guldo having finally recovered, though still dazed. The addition of Vegeta and Nappa changed the dynamic completely. Where Roku had been overwhelmed alone, the 3 Scions working in concert proved formidable. Vegeta targeted Geese with precision attacks, his superior experience evident in every calculated strike. Nappa engaged Rikum in a battle of titans, their massive power levels causing shockwaves with each collision. Roku found himself facing both Berter and the recovered Guldo, using his teleportation to counter Berter's speed and Guldo's time-freezing ability. Captain Jinyu observed the battle with growing frustration as his elite force struggled against the Scion trio. "Enough," he finally shouted. "It's time for my special technique." He fired a purple beam at Vegeta, who dodged easily, assuming it was an attack. But instead of exploding on impact, the beam curved around, returning to Captain Jinyu, who smiled malevolently. "What game is this?" Vegeta demanded. "Body change." Jinyu shouted, the beam suddenly shooting from his mouth toward Vegeta with incredible speed. Roku recognized the danger instinctively, though he didn't understand the technique. Without hesitation, he teleported into the path of the beam, deflecting it with a Yardrat energy-splitting technique Elder Piku had taught him specifically for redirecting hostile energy. The purple beam split, fragments shooting in multiple directions. One struck a nearby crystal formation, causing it to explode. Another hit the already weakened structure of the healing center, bringing down what remained of its roof. "Nana!" Roku cried out, seeing the debris falling toward her still form. Time seemed to slow as Roku pushed his teleportation to its absolute limit, appearing beside Nana and shielding her body with his own. Pain exploded across his back as several crystal beams struck him, their weight driving him to the ground. Roku. Nana's voice penetrated the haze of pain, her hands trying to push away the debris crushing him. Something broke inside Roku in that moment. Not physically, something deeper, more fundamental. The careful balance he'd maintained between his Scion power and Yardrat control shattered as rage unlike anything he'd ever experienced flooded through him. "Get away from her," he roared, his voice changing, deepening. Energy exploded outward from his body, disintegrating the debris and creating a shockwave that knocked everyone back, Scions and Jinyu Force alike. Roku rose slowly to his feet, his body enveloped in a golden aura that crackled with electricity. His normally black hair had transformed, standing even more rigidly upward and glowing with the same golden light. What is this?" Captain Jinyu stammered, his scouter exploding as it tried to measure Roku's new power level. Vegeta stared in disbelief, his expression a mix of awe and bitter envy. "It can't be," he whispered. "The legend, a Super Saiyan." Roku stood amid the golden aura, his now teal eyes fixed on Captain Jinyu with cold fury. He didn't understand the transformation, knew only that power beyond anything he'd imagined now coursed through his body. Every sense was heightened, every movement effortless. "You threatened my home," he said, his voice eerily calm despite the raging energy around him. "You hurt my people. That ends now." Captain Jinyu, to his credit, didn't flee despite the overwhelming power facing him. Jinyu Force. Formation Alpha. The four remaining members attacked simultaneously, converging on Roku from different angles. To them, it must have seemed a coordinated, unavoidable assault. To Roku, they moved as if underwater. His new form granted him speed that made even Berter appear sluggish by comparison. He moved between them without teleporting, simply using raw physical speed, landing devastating blows that sent each warrior crashing to the ground. "Impossible," Jis gasped, blood streaming from his nose. "No one's that fast." Captain Jinyu attacked directly, unleashing his full power in a barrage of punches and kicks. Roku blocked or dodged each one effortlessly, his expression unchanged, before countering with a single punch to Jinyu's midsection that doubled the captain over. "Your power." Jinyu wheezed. "Lord Frisia must know about this." "Tell him," Roku replied coldly. "Tell him a scion from Yardrat is coming for him." With that, he delivered a precisely calculated strike to Jinyu's neck, rendering the captain unconscious but alive. The remaining Jinyu Force members stared in shock at their fallen leader. "Take him and go," Roku ordered, the golden aura still swirling around him. "Never return to Yardrat." The defeated warriors didn't need to be told twice. Gathering their unconscious captain and the heavily wounded Rikum, they retreated to their ships, leaving Roku standing amid the destruction of his village. As the immediate threat passed, Roku felt the tremendous energy of his transformation beginning to wane. The golden aura flickered, then faded entirely as his hair and eyes returned to their normal black. Exhaustion unlike anything he'd ever experienced crashed over him, dropping him to his knees. Vegeta approached cautiously, his expression unreadable. "You did it," he said simply. "You achieved the legend." "What happened to me?" Roku asked, his body trembling with fatigue. "Super Saiyan," Vegeta replied, something like reverence in his voice. "A transformation spoken of in ancient Saiyan lore. A warrior with unimaginable power, appearing once every 1,000 years." His eyes narrowed. "A power I've sought my entire life." Nappa joined them, looking equally stunned. "How did you do it? What triggered the transformation?" Roku glanced toward Nana, who was now being tended by Elder Piku and other Yardrats emerging from hiding. "I don't know. I just couldn't let them hurt anyone else." A bitter smile twisted Vegeta's lips. "Of course. Protecting others. How fitting that the legendary power would come to the scion who rejects his heritage. I don't reject anything, Roku countered, struggling to his feet. I embrace all of who I am. Scion strength. Yardrat wisdom. Both together made that transformation possible. Elder Piku approached, his ancient face showing both concern and pride. The Golden Warrior, he murmured. Our oldest texts speak of beings of light who could teleport between worlds. Perhaps they encountered super scions in ages past. The Jinyu force will return, Vegeta warned. With Frieza himself next time. This planet isn't safe for any of us now. Where will you go? Roku asked, noticing that despite their earlier teamwork, Vegeta maintained a careful distance, as if unsure whether to consider Roku ally or rival now. There are planets beyond Frieza's immediate reach, Vegeta replied. Places where we can train, grow stronger. His gaze hardened. Your power today, that transformation, proves that Frieza can be defeated. That scions can reclaim their rightful place in the galaxy. Roku looked around at the damaged village, at the Yardrats who had raised him, taught him, accepted him despite his alien heritage. My place is here, he said firmly. Helping them rebuild. Protecting them if Frieza returns. Sentimental fool, Vegeta scoffed, though without real malice. You achieved the legendary transformation, and still you cling to these peaceful weaklings. Their peace gave me strength, Roku countered. Their techniques made me who I am. And my scion blood gives me the power to protect them. He stood straighter despite his exhaustion. I won't choose between being scion or being of Yardrat. I'm both. Something shifted in Vegeta's expression, not quite acceptance, but perhaps the beginning of understanding. Your power could be useful when we eventually face Frieza. The teleportation especially. Is that an invitation? Roku asked with the hint of a smile. Call it a recognition of strategic value, Vegeta replied stiffly. Nana approached, her head bandaged but her step steady. The council says many of our people are still missing, she reported. And half the village is destroyed. Roku nodded, decision made. I'll help rebuild. Then. He glanced at Vegeta and Nappa. Then perhaps it's time I learned more about being a scion. About my heritage. Roku, Elder Piku interjected gently. Your path has always been larger than Yardrat alone. Today's transformation confirms what we have long suspected, you have a destiny that extends beyond our world. I won't abandon you, Roku insisted. Not abandonment, Piku corrected. Evolution. You came to us as a child. You must leave as a warrior. The old Yardrat smiled sadly. But never forget the balance we taught you. Power without wisdom destroys itself. Vegeta made a dismissive noise but didn't contradict the elder's words. Our ship can accommodate 3, barely. We leave at dawn. As the Scion Prince walked away, Nappa lingering uncertainly before following, Roku turned to Nana. I have to go, he said softly. Frieza will keep coming, for me, for them, for Yardrat. I need to become strong enough to end this threat permanently. Nana touched the crystal pendant she'd given him, which had survived the transformation unscathed. This will help you focus your teleportation across interstellar distances, she explained. So you can always find your way back home. I will come back, Roku promised. When I've mastered this new power. When I can ensure Yardrat's safety. Elder Piku placed his hands on Roku's shoulders, looking directly into his eyes. The transformation you achieved today came from balance, your scion strength guided by Yardrat heart. Remember that. True power comes not from rage alone, but from clarity of purpose. As night fell over the damaged village, Roku helped with rescue efforts, using his teleportation to locate trapped Yardrats and bring medical supplies where needed. The golden transformation, Super Saiyan, as Vegeta called it, remained just beyond his conscious reach, though he could feel its power dormant within him. Late that night, he sat atop one of the undamaged crystal spires, gazing up at the 6 moons of Yardrat, the view that had given him his name 15 years ago. "Can't sleep?" Nana asked, teleporting beside him. "Too much to process," he admitted. "Super Saiyan. Frisia. Leaving Yardrat. Leaving me," she added softly. Roku turned to her, surprised by the directness. "I'll come back." "I know," she said. "But you'll be different. This transformation today, it's just the beginning, isn't it?" He nodded slowly. "I think so. Vegeta called it a legend. And the way he looked at me afterward." He trailed off, remembering the complex emotions in the prince's eyes: awe, envy, resentment, respect. "You'll need both sides of yourself in the days to come," Nana said. "Your Saiyan strength and your Yardrat heart. Don't let Vegeta make you choose." "I won't," Roku promised. Then, acting on impulse, he reached out and took her hand. "Wait for me." Nana smiled, her blue-tinged skin seeming to glow in the moonlight. "Always. Just don't take too long. I'm not as patient as Elder Piku." They sat together through the night, watching the moons traverse Yardrat's sky. Tomorrow would bring departure, an uncertain journey with 2 full-blooded Saiyans who viewed the universe very differently than Roku did. But tonight was for memories, of the planet that had raised him, the people who had taught him, and the unique balance he had found between his 2 worlds. Dawn came too quickly. Vegeta and Nappa waited by their ship, both looking impatient. The entire village had gathered to see Roku off, their earlier fears of his Saiyan nature now replaced by pride in the warrior they had raised. "Remember your meditation," Elder Piku instructed as they said their goodbyes. "Especially now that you've accessed this Super Saiyan form. Control will be more important than ever." "I'll practice daily," Roku promised. "And take these," Nana added, pressing a larger pouch of healing beans into his hand. "I made them extra potent. They should work even for a Super Saiyan." Roku accepted the gift, then impulsively pulled her into an embrace. "I will come back," he whispered. "You better," she replied, her voice catching slightly. "Enough sentimentality," Vegeta called impatiently. Frisia's forces could return any moment. With a final look at the village that had been his only home, Roku joined the other Saiyans at their ship. As the door closed and the engines fired, he watched Yardrat fall away beneath them, its distinctive purple landscape growing smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. "So, Roku," Vegeta said as they entered deep space, deliberate emphasis on the Yardrat name. "Now that you've achieved Super Saiyan, everything changes." "How so?" Roku asked cautiously. A calculating smile crossed Vegeta's face. "Because now, for the first time in decades, Frisia has something to fear. And we're going to make sure he knows it." As the ship accelerated to light speed, carrying 3 of the last Saiyans in existence away from Yardrat, Roku touched the crystal pendant at his neck. His journey had taken an unexpected turn, but his purpose remained clear: master the power of Super Saiyan, protect his adoptive home, and ultimately confront the tyrant who had nearly exterminated his race. Saiyan and Yardrat, warrior and protector, Roku of 2 worlds embarked on the next chapter of his destiny, one that would reshape the galaxy forever. Chapter 3, Destiny transmitted. The ship hurtled through space, its cramped confines barely containing 3 Saiyan warriors. Roku sat cross-legged in what little floor space existed, eyes closed in meditation despite the uncomfortable conditions. Across from him, Vegeta watched with poorly disguised impatience. "Still wasting time with that Yardrat nonsense," the prince finally snapped. "We should be discussing strategy, not playing mind games." Roku opened one eye. "This nonsense helped me achieve Super Saiyan." "Luck and rage transformed you, not meditation," Vegeta countered. "I saw your face when that blue female was threatened." "Her name is Nana," Roku said evenly, closing his eye again. "And yes, anger triggered the transformation. But without my Yardrat training, I couldn't have controlled it. Nappa, squeezed uncomfortably into the ship's co-pilot seat, grunted. Who cares how it happened? The kid transformed. First Super Saiyan in 1,000 years. Vegeta's expression darkened. A transformation that should have been mine. The tension in the ship thickened. After 3 days in transit, the novelty of traveling with other Saiyans had worn off, leaving Roku increasingly aware of the fundamental differences between himself and his biological kin. Where exactly are we going? Roku asked, changing the subject as he uncrossed his legs. Planet Trika, Vegeta replied. Remote enough to stay under Frisia's radar, inhabited but sparsely. We can train there without interruption. And the natives? Vegeta shrugged dismissively. Weak, but useful. They'll provide food, shelter. You mean we'll take those things, Roku clarified, his voice hardening. Is there a difference? Vegeta smirked. Roku stood, his tail unwrapping from his waist to lash behind him in agitation. We're not conquering them. If we stay on Trika, we do so peacefully. You sound like a Yardrat, not a Saiyan, Vegeta sneered. I'm both, Roku stated firmly. And I won't abandon either part of myself just because you think Saiyans should be conquerors. Nappa shifted uncomfortably. Prince Vegeta, maybe the kid has a point. Staying under Frisia's radar means not drawing attention with planetary conquests. Vegeta glared at his subordinate but didn't argue. Further. Fine. We play nice with the locals. For now. The ship's console beeped, indicating their approach to the Trika system. Roku gazed out the viewport at the approaching planet, a world of deep oceans and scattered island chains, predominantly blue with swirls of white clouds. Looks peaceful, he commented. Looks boring, Nappa countered. As they entered the atmosphere, Roku noticed something odd about the planet's energy. Unlike Yardrat, where life force flowed in steady, harmonious patterns, Trika's energy seemed erratic, fluctuating unpredictably. Something's wrong, he murmured, placing 2 fingers to his forehead in the instant transmission pose. The energy signatures, they're chaotic. Vegeta dismissed his concern. Focus on landing without killing us. Nappa's piloting skills are questionable at best. Hey, the larger Saiyan protested, wrestling with the controls as the ship bucked in Trika's turbulent upper atmosphere. They broke through the cloud cover to reveal a landscape more disturbing than the serene view from space had suggested. Several islands were burning, black smoke billowing into the otherwise clear sky. The ocean itself seemed to boil in places, steam rising in great clouds. What the hell? Nappa muttered, scanning for a safe landing zone. Roku extended his senses, reaching out to identify the source of the disturbance. What he felt made his blood run cold. We need to leave, he said urgently. Now. What are you? Vegeta began, but was cut off as a massive energy beam lanced up from the planet's surface, narrowly missing their ship. Evasive maneuvers, he barked at Nappa, who yanked the controls hard to port, sending them into a spiraling dive. 2 more energy beams followed, tracking their descent with disturbing accuracy. Nappa managed to dodge one, but the second clipped their engine housing, sending the ship into an uncontrolled spin. We're going down, the big Saiyan shouted, fighting with the controls as alarms blared throughout the cabin. Grab on. Roku ordered, reaching for both Vegeta and Nappa. What are you? Vegeta started to protest, but Roku had already placed his fingers to his forehead. Nothing happened. I can't teleport, Roku realized with shock. Something's blocking the instant transmission. Then we crash land like real Saiyans, Vegeta growled, strapping himself into his seat. Brace for impact. The ship plummeted toward one of the larger islands, its damaged engines sputtering uselessly. Nappa managed to level their descent somewhat, aiming for a stretch of beach rather than the rocky interior. They hit hard, the impact throwing Roku against the ceiling before he crashed back to the floor. Metal screamed as the ship carved a deep furrow in the sand before finally grinding to a halt. For several moments, only the hiss of escaping coolant and the crackle of electrical shorts broke the silence. Then Vegeta kicked the crumpled hatch open. "Everyone alive?" he demanded, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. Nappa groaned from the pilot's seat, his massive frame having absorbed the worst of the impact. "Been better, but I'll live." Roku pulled himself up, wincing at what felt like several cracked ribs. "I'm okay. But we need to move. Whoever shot us down is coming." "Let them come," Vegeta snarled, energy already crackling around his fists. "I could use a warm-up." They exited the wrecked ship, scanning the island for threats. The beach gave way to dense jungle about 100 yards inland, while the ocean stretched endlessly in the other direction. The air smelled of salt, vegetation, and, incongruously, burning metal. There, Nappa pointed toward a column of smoke rising from the jungle. "Looks like another crash site." Roku reached out with his senses again, trying to identify any nearby energy signatures. The strange interference continued, making precise detection difficult, but he could feel multiple power levels approaching from the direction of the smoke. "We've got company," he warned. 5, no, 6 of them. Strong. Vegeta's eyes narrowed. How strong? Before Roku could answer, the jungle's edge exploded outward as something massive burst through the vegetation. The creature stood nearly 15 feet tall, reptilian in appearance but with cybernetic enhancements covering much of its body. One arm ended in a wicked-looking energy cannon, which it immediately aimed at the scions. "Targets acquired," it announced in a mechanical voice. 3 scions, as predicted. "Predicted?" Vegeta repeated, dropping into a fighting stance. This was a trap. 5 more figures emerged from the jungle, each different in appearance but sharing the same cybernetic modifications. Their leader, a tall humanoid with purple skin and a gleaming metal skull plate, stepped forward. "Prince Vegeta," he greeted with mock courtesy. "Lord Frieza sends his regards." Roku felt his heart sink. Not even 3 days after escaping Yardrat, and Frieza's forces had already found them. "Chui's replacement, I presume?" Vegeta sneered. "Another purple fool sent to die." The leader chuckled. "I am Commander Cryos of the Cyber Force. Unlike the disappointing Jinyu squad, we don't rely solely on natural ability." He tapped his metallic skull plate. "We've been enhanced specifically to deal with scion threats." Nappa cracked his knuckles. "Fancy toys won't save you from a scion elite." "Perhaps not," Cryos conceded. "But they will counter your newest advantage." His gaze shifted to Roku. "The Super Scion of Yardrat. Your teleportation is quite impressive, or would be, if our dampening field wasn't negating it." So that explained the interference Roku had felt. These cyborgs were specifically designed to counter his abilities. "Enough talk," Vegeta declared, his aura flaring around him. "If Frieza wants us dead, he should have come himself." "Oh, he's coming," Cryos smiled coldly. "We're just the welcome party." Cyber Force, engage. The 6 cyborgs attacked simultaneously, each targeting a specific aspect of scion combat. The massive reptilian focused powerful energy blasts at Nappa, while a sleek, Quicksilver being engaged Vegeta with blinding speed. Roku found himself facing Cryos directly, the commander's enhanced limbs moving with lethal precision. "Your instant transmission is neutralized," Cryos taunted as they exchanged blows. "What's a Yardrat-trained scion without his teleportation?" Roku blocked a cybernetic punch that would have shattered a normal being's bones. "Still a scion," he replied, countering with a powerful kick that dented Cryos's metallic chest plate. The battle spread across the beach, each scion fighting multiple opponents. Despite their cybernetic enhancements, the Cyber Force couldn't match the raw power and combat experience of Vegeta and Nappa. Even outnumbered, the 2 full-blooded scions held their own, gradually gaining the upper hand. Roku, however, found himself struggling more than expected. Without instant transmission, he was forced to rely solely on physical combat, and while he was extraordinarily powerful for his age, his fighting style had evolved to incorporate teleportation as its foundation. Its absence left gaps in his defense that Cryos exploited mercilessly. A cybernetic fist slipped through his guard, connecting with his already injured ribs. Pain exploded through Roku's torso, momentarily stunning him. Cryos capitalized immediately, landing a follow-up blow that sent Roku crashing into their wrecked spacecraft. Disappointing, the commander observed. Captain Jinyu reported a warrior of incredible ability. Perhaps your Super Saiyan transformation was merely a fluke. Roku pulled himself from the wreckage, blood trickling from his mouth. Cryos was right, without the Super Saiyan form, without instant transmission, he was at a severe disadvantage. But the golden transformation remained frustratingly out of reach, a power he could feel but not access at will. "What's wrong, boy?" Cryos mocked. "Can't find your golden glow?" Nearby, Vegeta had dispatched one of his opponents and now fought the Quicksilver cyborg with growing frustration. "Transform, you fool," he shouted at Roku. "Show these mechanical abominations what a Super Saiyan can do." "I'm trying." Roku growled, dodging another of Cryos' attacks. "It doesn't work like that." In truth, Roku didn't fully understand how the transformation had happened on Yardrat. He remembered the rage, the desperation when Nana was threatened, but there had been something else too, a clarity, a perfect alignment of his Saiyan power and Yardrat's spiritual training. That balance eluded him now, his mind clouded by pain and frustration. Cryos pressed his advantage, his cybernetic body seemingly tireless while Roku's injuries slowed him with each exchange. A particularly vicious combination sent Roku sprawling on the beach, sand sticking to his bloodied skin. Lord Frisia will be disappointed, Cryos sighed theatrically. He expected more of a challenge from the legendary Super Saiyan. As Roku struggled to rise, he noticed something half buried in the sand beside him, Nana's pouch of healing beans, knocked free during the crash. With Cryos momentarily distracted by the battle between Vegeta and his remaining cyborgs, Roku grabbed the pouch and quickly swallowed one of the beans. The effect was instantaneous. Energy flooded through his body, mending broken ribs and replenishing depleted strength. He sprang to his feet just as Cryos turned back to finish him off. "What's this?" the commander frowned, his cybernetic eye scanning Roku's suddenly recovered form. "Your energy signature has stabilized. Increased, even." Roku smiled grimly. "Yardrat healing. Another technique your dampening field can't block." Before Cryos could respond, Roku attacked with renewed vigor. Though still unable to teleport, his physical abilities had been fully restored, and he fought with the combined knowledge of Saiyan combat instincts and Yardrat precision striking. Cryos found himself on the defensive for the first time, his cybernetic enhancements barely keeping pace with Roku's assault. Across the beach, Vegeta had destroyed the Quicksilver cyborg and now fought alongside Nappa against the remaining members of the Cyber Force. The tide of battle had shifted decisively in the Saiyan's favor. "Impossible," Cryos muttered as Roku landed a powerful combination that cracked his reinforced chest plate. "Our enhancements were calibrated to exceed Saiyan capabilities." "You calibrated for Saiyans," Roku replied, his fist glowing with concentrated energy as he struck again. "Not for this Saiyan." The blow penetrated Cryos' damaged armor, energy discharging directly into his cybernetic core. The commander staggered backward, systems failing as his mechanical parts short-circuited. With a final, defiant glare, he activated an emergency protocol. Cyber Force. Ultimate Contingency. The remaining cyborgs immediately disengaged from their battles, retreating to form a circle around the three Saiyans. Before Vegeta or Nappa could pursue, each cyborg began to glow with an ominous red light. "What are they doing?" Nappa demanded. Roku sensed the danger immediately. "They're overloading their power cores. It's a suicide attack." Correct, Super Saiyan, Cryos confirmed, his damaged system sparking. If we can't defeat you conventionally, we'll take you with us. Our combined detonation will vaporize this entire island. Vegeta cursed, firing energy blasts at the nearest cyborg, but the attack simply absorbed into the growing red aura. We can't damage them in this state. 10 seconds to detonation, Cryos announced calmly. Lord Frieza will be pleased to hear of our success. We need to teleport. Nappa shouted desperately. Kid, can you break through their dampening field? Roku closed his eyes, focusing on the spiritual techniques Elder Piku had taught him. The dampening field was technological, not spiritual. It interfered with the energy connections instant transmission relied upon, but it couldn't sever them completely. If he could just feel those connections again. 5 seconds, Cryos continued. 4, 3. Roku. Vegeta snapped. Now or never. Drawing on his deepest training, Roku visualized the energy connections as Elder Piku had taught him, not as paths to travel, but as the fundamental threads binding all existence. The dampening field appeared in his mind's eye as a disruptive frequency, a dissonance he needed to harmonize with rather than overcome. 2, 1. Grab on. Roku shouted, extending his hands to Vegeta and Nappa while placing 2 fingers to his forehead with his other hand. The princes hesitated only a fraction of a second before each grasped one of his arms. Roku felt the connection snap into place, working with the dampening field rather than against it. The world vanished around them just as the cyborgs detonated in a cataclysmic explosion that consumed the entire island in a ball of fire visible from orbit. They rematerialized on another island several miles away, the shockwave of the explosion reaching them seconds later as a hot wind that bent the jungle's trees nearly horizontal. You did it, Nappa marveled, staring at the mushroom cloud rising in the distance. You teleported through their dampening field. Vegeta studied Roku with narrowed eyes. How? Roku, exhausted by the effort of breaking through the interference, sank to his knees. I didn't fight the field. I harmonized with it. Yardrat technique. Humph. Vegeta's acknowledgement was grudging at best. At least your Yardrat training is good for something. We need to leave this planet immediately, Roku said, struggling back to his feet. If Cryos was telling the truth, Frieza is on his way. Our ship is destroyed, Nappa pointed out. And even if it wasn't, where would we go? Frieza controls most of the galaxy. Roku considered their options. Without a ship, his instant transmission was their only means of travel, but its range, while considerable, wasn't infinite. He needed a familiar energy signature to lock onto for interstellar distances. I could get us back to Yardrat, he suggested. Absolutely not, Vegeta snapped. That's the first place Frieza will look for us now. Then where? Roku demanded. We need allies, resources. A calculating look entered Vegeta's eyes. There is one place, a planet called Namek. Remote, peaceful, not unlike your precious Yardrat. But it possesses something of immense value. What kind of something? Roku asked cautiously, familiar enough with Vegeta's personality to be suspicious. Artifacts called Dragon Balls, the prince replied. 7 orbs that, when gathered, can grant wishes. Any wish. Nappa's eyes widened. Prince Vegeta, you said those were just legends. I've reconsidered, Vegeta said coldly. Especially given recent developments. His gaze flicked meaningfully to Roku. Roku understood immediately. You want to wish for Super Saiyan power. Why not? Vegeta challenged. If a third-class Saiyan raised by aliens can achieve it, surely I deserve it by birthright. Rather than argue, Roku considered the strategic value of Vegeta's suggestion. If these Dragon Balls were real, they could provide options beyond simply running or fighting. Can you sense Namek from here? Vegeta asked. Lock onto its energy somehow. Roku shook his head. I've never been there. I need a reference point, someone or something I'm familiar with. Then we need a ship, Nappa concluded. Maybe the cyborgs had one nearby. Before they could discuss further, Roku tensed, his senses picking up a new energy signature approaching, one far more powerful than the cyber force had been. Someone's coming, he warned. Someone strong. Vegeta cursed. Already? How fast is Frisia's ship? It's not Frisia, Roku said, his expression grave. This energy feels different, but almost as powerful. The three scions braced themselves as a figure descended from the sky, landing gracefully on the beach before them. Humanoid in appearance but with light blue skin and white hair, the newcomer wore armor similar to Frisia's forces but with distinctive modifications. Most notably, a symbol Roku didn't recognize adorned his breastplate. Scions, the stranger greeted with a slight bow. Fortuitous timing. Who are you? Vegeta demanded, energy crackling around his fists. My name is Salza, the blue-skinned warrior replied. Commander of the armored squadron, in service to Lord Cooler. Cooler? Roku repeated, confused. Frisia's brother, Vegeta explained, his voice tight. Even more powerful, by some accounts. Salza smiled thinly. Indeed. And my lord has a proposition for you, Prince Vegeta, and the Super Saiyan of Yardrat. Roku and Vegeta exchanged wary glances. Another of Frisia's family was the last complication they needed. What kind of proposition? Vegeta asked cautiously. Alliance, Salza said simply. Against Frisia. The revelation stunned all three scions. Nappa recovered first, voicing their collective suspicion, why would Frisia's brother want to ally with scions? Family politics, Salza replied with a dismissive wave. Lord Cooler and Lord Frisia have competing interests. The emergence of a Super Saiyan has created a unique opportunity in their power dynamic. You mean Frisia fears the Super Saiyan legend, Vegeta surmised with a predatory smile. As he should. What my lord's brother fears is irrelevant, Salza said smoothly. What matters is that Lord Cooler offers you sanctuary, resources, and the chance to strike a meaningful blow against the one who destroyed your homeworld. Roku wasn't convinced. Why should we trust Cooler? He's cut from the same cloth as Frisia. You shouldn't trust him, Salza admitted frankly. But your options appear limited. Your ship is destroyed. Frisia's forces are en route. And while your teleportation abilities are impressive, young Super Saiyan, I doubt you can transport your companions across interstellar distances indefinitely. He was right, and Roku knew it. Their immediate need for transportation and resources outweighed ideological concerns. What exactly does Cooler want from us? Vegeta asked, ever the strategist. Initially, just your presence, Salza explained. The Super Saiyan's existence shifts the balance of power. Lord Cooler merely wishes to ensure that shift favors him rather than his brother. And later? Roku pressed. Salza's smile turned cold. Later, we shall see what you're truly capable of. Vegeta pulled Roku and Nappa aside for a hurried conference. We accept his offer, the prince said decisively. We need a ship, intelligence on Frisia's movements, and time to train. You can't seriously trust him, Roku protested. Of course not, Vegeta scoffed. But we can use him while it suits us. Once you've mastered the Super Saiyan transformation at will, we won't need Cooler's protection. Nappa nodded agreement. Strategic alliance. Nothing more. Roku remained uncomfortable with the arrangement but acknowledged their limited options. Fine. But at the first sign of betrayal, we leave. They turned back to Salza, who waited with calculated patience. We accept, Vegeta announced. On a provisional basis. Excellent, Salza replied, activating a communication device on his wrist. My ship will arrive shortly. Lord Cooler will be pleased. As they waited for Salza's ship, Roku gazed back toward the still smoldering remains of the island where they'd crashed. In less than 3 days, he'd gone from the peaceful existence of Yardrat to allying with the brother of the tyrant who'd destroyed his ancestral homeworld. The galaxy was proving far more complex and dangerous than his sheltered upbringing had prepared him for. Having doubts, boy? Vegeta asked, noticing his pensive expression. Just processing, Roku replied. On Yardrat, enemies and allies were clear. Out here, everything's murky. Welcome to reality, Vegeta said dryly. In this universe, today's enemy might be tomorrow's ally, temporarily. And Cooler? A means to an end, Vegeta stated flatly. Nothing more. Roku nodded, his resolve hardening. Whatever came next, he would remain true to both sides of his heritage, Scion strength and Yardrat wisdom. He touched the crystal pendant Nana had given him, drawing comfort from its familiar energy. I will master Super Saiyan, he promised quietly. Not for Cooler's agenda or even for Vegeta's approval. For Yardrat's protection. A sleek spacecraft appeared on the horizon, approaching rapidly. The next phase of their journey was about to begin. Lord Cooler's flagship dwarfed any vessel Roku had previously encountered, including the Jinya Force's ships. A massive, spherical command center anchored dozens of blade-like projections, giving the entire structure an appearance as menacing as its master. Salza's smaller craft docked in one of numerous hangar bays, where a welcoming committee of sorts awaited, 2 more members of the armored squadron, flanking a hovering throne. Lord Cooler, Salza announced with a deep bow. I present Prince Vegeta of the Scions, his General Nappa, and Roku of Yardrat, the Super Saiyan. Cooler's appearance startled Roku. While clearly of the same species as Frieza, based on Vegeta's descriptions, Cooler's form was sleeker, more angular, with a purple biogem embedded in his skull. Unlike his brother's reported white and pink coloration, Cooler's skin was deep purple with blue accents. So, Cooler's voice was cultured, almost pleasant. Belying the cold calculation in his eyes. The last of the Scions, including my brother's newest obsession. Vegeta stepped forward, offering neither bow nor subservience. We accept your hospitality, Lord Cooler, but not your mastery. Let's be clear on that from the beginning. A thin smile curved Cooler's lips. Spoken like a true prince. Rest assured, Vegeta, I have no interest in commanding Scions. Unlike my brother, I recognize the value of motivated allies over fearful servants. His gaze shifted to Roku, studying him with scientific interest. The Super Saiyan of Yardrat. Younger than I expected. Roku met his scrutiny evenly. Age isn't everything. Indeed not, Cooler agreed. Power, control, and strategic application matter far more. Tell me, can you transform at will? The direct question caught Roku off guard. Not yet, he admitted reluctantly. Honesty. Refreshing. Cooler gestured to his subordinates. Show our guests to their quarters. They'll want to rest before we begin. Begin what? Nappa asked suspiciously. Training, of course, Cooler replied as if it were obvious. If you're to be useful against my brother, the young Super Saiyan must master his transformation. And you too, he nodded to Vegeta and Nappa, must increase your power substantially. As they were escorted from the docking bay, Roku whispered to Vegeta, I don't trust him. Nor should you, Vegeta murmured back. But his resources are valuable. Use them while remaining vigilant. Their assigned quarters proved surprisingly comfortable, spacious rooms with regeneration tanks, training facilities, and food dispensers programmed with Scion metabolic requirements. After months in a cramped spacecraft, even Vegeta seemed momentarily appreciative of the accommodations. Don't get too comfortable, he warned nevertheless. This is temporary. A means to an end. Roku spent that first evening exploring their permitted sections of Cooler's massive flagship. Unlike Frieza's forces, with their reported brutality and chaos, Cooler's operation ran with military precision. The soldiers, though clearly fearful of their lord, demonstrated competence rather than cowering sycophancy. The training facilities particularly impressed him: gravity chambers that could simulate up to 100 times standard gravity, combat robots of various power levels, and meditation chambers reminiscent of Yardrat's crystal caves. Acceptable? Salza asked, finding Roku studying the equipment. Better than expected, Roku admitted. Your lord seems well prepared for Scion training needs. Salza's expression remained neutral. Lord Cooler studies his enemies and allies with equal thoroughness. He's been monitoring Frisia's Scion problem for years. Problem? Frisia fears your race, Salza said bluntly. The Super Scion legend haunts him. It's why he destroyed your planet. Lord Cooler, however, sees potential where his brother sees threat. And what do you see? Roku asked directly. A hint of genuine emotion, respect, perhaps, flickered across Salza's features. I see 3 warriors who survived against impossible odds. That commands a certain professional admiration. It wasn't friendship, but it was honest. Roku appreciated that more than false camaraderie. The training began in earnest the next day. Cooler assigned Salza to oversee their regimen, with specific focus on helping Roku access the Super Scion transformation at will. The blue-skinned commander proved a surprisingly effective instructor, combining combat expertise with analytical precision. Your transformation on Yardrat was triggered by rage, Salza noted as they sparred in the gravity chamber set to 20G. But rage alone is unreliable. You need a clearer pathway. On Yardrat, we learned that energy responds to emotional and spiritual states, Roku explained between exchanges. The transformation felt like a perfect alignment. My Scion power and Yardrat control in balance. Salza considered this. Then perhaps we approached this incorrectly. Instead of trying to trigger transformation through combat stress, you should begin with meditation. Vegeta, training nearby with Nappa, overheard and scoffed. More Yardrat nonsense. Super Scion is a combat transformation, not a spiritual enlightenment. Yet he achieved it through protecting others, not conquest, Salza pointed out mildly. Perhaps this Scion's path is different from yours, Prince Vegeta. The suggestion infuriated Vegeta, but he couldn't argue with results, or rather, the lack thereof. Despite weeks of intensive combat training, pushing his body to breaking points repeatedly, Roku had not transformed again. The golden power remained tantalizingly beyond reach. Taking Salza's advice, Roku dedicated more time to meditation, seeking the balance he'd briefly experienced on Yardrat. In the quiet of the meditation chamber, he reflected on Elder Piku's teachings about energy flow and spiritual connection. The universe is connected by invisible threads, the Elder had often said. To master great power, one must see these connections clearly. Roku closed his eyes, focusing on the crystal pendant Nana had given him. Its familiar energy helped center his thoughts, allowing him to sense the connections binding him to his dual heritage, Scion strength and Yardrat wisdom. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months. Their alliance with Cooler proved more stable than initially feared, though never comfortable. The tyrant visited their training sessions occasionally, his cold analytical gaze assessing their progress with scientific detachment. My brother grows increasingly agitated, Cooler informed them during one such visit. The rumors of a Super Scion have spread throughout his ranks. Desertion rates have increased 15%. Good, Vegeta grunted, wiping sweat from his brow after an intense session at 50G. Let him squirm. Indeed, Cooler agreed with a thin smile. Though his discomfort has made him more dangerous. He's intensified his search for you three, with particular focus on your homeworld, young Roku. The casual mention of Yardrat sent a spike of alarm through Roku. What about Yardrat? Still intact, for now, Cooler replied. My intelligence suggests Frisia plans to visit personally rather than sending more underlings. The Jinyu force's failure embarrassed him. Roku exchanged concerned glances with Vegeta. If Frieza targeted Yardrat directly, countless innocent lives would be lost, all because they had sheltered a Saiyan child. How long until he reaches Yardrat? Roku demanded. Difficult to say precisely. 2 weeks, perhaps 3. Not long enough. Despite months of training, Roku still hadn't recaptured the Super Saiyan transformation, and while Vegeta and Nappa had grown significantly stronger under the intensive regimen, neither approached the power level needed to challenge Frieza directly. We need to intercept him, Roku declared. Draw his attention away from Yardrat. Bold strategy, Cooler observed neutrally. Also suicidal in your current state. Then I need to master Super Saiyan now, Roku insisted. No more gradual progress. Later that evening, Vegeta found Roku in the meditation chamber, surrounded by a pulsing white aura as he sought the transformation through spiritual focus. This isn't working, the prince stated flatly. Months of training, and you're no closer to controlling the golden form. Roku opened his eyes, frustration evident in his expression. I know. I can feel it, like it's just beyond my reach. Because you're approaching it wrong, Vegeta said, surprising Roku by sitting cross-legged opposite him. You keep seeking balance when you should be embracing conflict. What do you mean? The legend speaks of a Saiyan driven by rage to break through his limits, Vegeta explained. You experienced that on Yardrat when the blue female was threatened. Yet now you try to find transformation through serenity. He practically spat the word. Elder Piku taught me that true power comes from controlling energy, not just generating it, Roku countered. Perhaps, Vegeta conceded reluctantly. But you're not. Just Yardrat, boy. You're Saiyan too. Our power grows through battle, through pushing beyond our limits, through embracing our primal nature. For once, Vegeta wasn't speaking with his usual condescension. There was something almost mentoring in his approach. What are you suggesting? Roku asked. A different approach, Vegeta replied. Not just rage, not just control. Both. Embrace the conflict between your two natures rather than trying to harmonize them. The suggestion resonated with something Roku had felt during his original transformation, not perfect balance, but perfect tension. Like a bow drawn to its maximum capacity just before release. Worth trying, he agreed, closing his eyes again. But I need a focus point. Yardrat, Vegeta said simply. Frieza is heading there now. Imagine what will happen when he arrives. The images came unbidden, Yardrat's peaceful villages in flames, Elder Piku facing Frieza's merciless power, Nana. Roku's energy spiked involuntarily at the thought of harm coming to her. Good, Vegeta encouraged, his voice uncharacteristically supportive. Feel the rage building. Now, instead of controlling it or unleashing it, direct it. Shape it with your Yardrat training. Roku visualized his anger as energy, not suppressing it as Elder Piku had taught, not exploding with it as Saiyan instinct demanded, but channeling it like the focused beam of a Kamehameha wave. The power built within him, intense but contained. It's working, he whispered, feeling something shifting in his energy pattern. I can feel the transformation starting. Push harder, Vegeta urged. Don't just accept the power, demand it. With a final mental push, Roku broke through the barrier. Golden light erupted around him, his hair standing upright and transforming from black to brilliant gold. The meditation chamber's instruments shattered as energy poured from his transformed state. Vegeta shielded his eyes against the brilliant aura, a complex mixture of emotions crossing his face, awe, envy, and grudging pride. You did it, he acknowledged. Now hold it. Control it. The power threatened to overwhelm Roku, far more intense than he remembered from Yardrat. Every cell in his body seemed supercharged with energy, his senses heightened to near painful clarity. Maintaining the transformation required tremendous focus. It's incredible, he managed, his voice deeper in this form. Like nothing I've felt before. That is the birthright of our race, Vegeta said, something like reverence in his tone. The ultimate Saiyan power. Alarms blared throughout the ship as sensors detected the massive energy spike. Seconds later, Salza burst into the meditation chamber, followed closely by Cooler himself. Magnificent, Cooler murmured, studying Roku's transformed state with scientific fascination. The legend made flesh. Roku maintained the transformation for nearly 10 minutes before exhaustion forced him back to his normal state. He collapsed forward, breathing heavily but grinning with accomplishment. I can access it now, he declared. With practice, I can maintain it longer, control it better. Excellent progress, Cooler acknowledged. Though perhaps insufficient given our timeline. My latest intelligence suggests Frieza has accelerated his journey to Yardrat. He'll arrive within days, not weeks. Roku's elation vanished instantly. Days? That's not enough time. For conventional interception, no, Cooler agreed. However, I believe your instant transmission technique might offer an alternative approach. The distance is too great, Roku protested. I need a familiar energy signature to lock onto for interstellar teleportation. Perhaps, Salza interjected, the crystal the female Yardrat gave you? It contains her energy signature, does it not? Roku touched the pendant around his neck. Yes, but even with that focus, I've never attempted transmission across such vast distances. Your Super Saiyan form increases all your abilities, Vegeta pointed out. Including, presumably, your teleportation range. It was a desperate gamble, but they had no better options. If Frieza reached Yardrat unchallenged, the peaceful planet and its inhabitants would suffer the same fate as planet Vegeta. I'll need to practice, Roku decided. Transform, teleport, gauge my limits. You have 2 days, Cooler informed him coolly. My ship will position at the maximum distance from Yardrat that your teleportation can manage. From there, you're on your own. Not entirely, Vegeta corrected. I'm going too. Roku stared at the prince in surprise. You want to help protect Yardrat? Don't be absurd, Vegeta scoffed. I want to fight Frieza. Your adopted planet is incidental. Despite his harsh words, Roku sensed something had shifted in Vegeta's attitude toward him since he'd helped trigger the Super Saiyan transformation. Not friendship, certainly, but a reluctant acknowledgement of kinship. And I'm coming too. Nappa declared, entering the chamber. 3 Saiyans against Frieza, will make him pay for planet Vegeta. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of intensive preparation. Roku practiced transforming into Super Saiyan repeatedly, gradually extending the duration he could maintain the form. Meanwhile, he worked on teleporting longer distances while transformed, discovering that his range increased nearly tenfold in the golden state. Cooler provided detailed intelligence on Frieza's ship, forces, and power levels, information gathered through years of sibling rivalry and espionage. The data painted a sobering picture. Even with Super Saiyan strength, facing Frieza would be the greatest challenge of their lives. My brother possesses multiple transformation states, Cooler explained during their final briefing. Each dramatically increases his power. In his final form, his capabilities are formidable. But beatable? Vegeta pressed. Cooler's expression remained unreadable. Theoretically. The Super Saiyan legend suggests power sufficient to challenge even a cold family member at full strength. However, theory and practice often diverge. As the deadline approached, Cooler's flagship took position at the calculated maximum teleportation range from Yardrat, still an unprecedented distance for instant transmission, but potentially within reach for a Super Saiyan. In the launch bay, Roku, Vegeta, and Nappa made final preparations. Each wore battle armor provided by Cooler, similar to standard Frieza Force designs but with superior flexibility and durability. Remember the strategy, Vegeta reminded them. We teleport directly to Yardrat, assess Frieza's position, then strike before he realizes we've arrived. Assuming the teleportation works, Nappa muttered nervously. Roku clutched Nana's crystal pendant, focusing on its familiar energy signature. It'll work. Cooler and Salza observed from a safe distance. A bold gambit, the tyrant commented. If you succeed against my brother, our arrangement will continue on favorable terms. And if we fail? Vegeta asked bluntly. A cold smile curved Cooler's lips. Then my brother will have eliminated his Scion problem, and I'll deal with him through other means. Comforting, Vegeta remarked sarcastically. We won't fail, Roku stated with quiet determination. He closed his eyes, focusing on the transformation. Golden energy erupted around him, his power level skyrocketing as hair and aura shifted to brilliant gold. The Super Saiyan of Yardrat stood ready, his teal eyes hard with resolve. Grab onto me, he instructed Vegeta and Nappa. And don't let go, no matter what. As the two Saions gripped his shoulders, Roku placed 2 fingers to his forehead, concentrating on Nana's crystal. Its energy called to him across the vast expanse of space, a beacon connected to Yardrat, to home. Instant transmission. The world vanished around them in a blur of light and sensation. Unlike normal teleportation, which happened instantly regardless of distance, this interstellar jump stretched out subjectively, the void between stars becoming momentarily perceptible as they traversed it. Roku felt the strain immediately, his energy depleting at an alarming rate despite the Super Saiyan form. The distance was pushing him beyond any previous limit, threatening to strand them in the emptiness between star systems. Focus, boy. Vegeta's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Don't you dare fail now. Drawing on his deepest reserves, Roku pushed forward, following the crystal's energy signature like a lifeline through darkness. Just as his power began to falter, reality reasserted itself around them. They materialized on a familiar crystalline spire overlooking Yardrat's main village, or what remained of it. Even from this distance, the destruction was evident. Several structures lay in ruins, while Frieza Force soldiers patrolled the streets, rounding up Yardrats who hadn't managed to teleport to safety. We made it, Nappa breathed, looking pale from the unprecedented teleportation experience. Roku's Super Saiyan aura flickered as fatigue from the massive teleportation effort hit him. He dropped to one knee, struggling to maintain the transformation. Keep it together, Vegeta ordered, scanning the village. Where's Frieza? Forcing himself to focus through exhaustion, Roku extended his senses. There, he pointed toward the village center, where a massive energy signature radiated cold malevolence. That has to be him. Even at this distance, Frieza's power level was staggering, far beyond anything they'd faced before. Vegeta's expression tightened as he too sensed the tyrant's strength. We stick to the plan, the prince decided. Hit him fast, hit him together, don't give him time to transform. Roku nodded, pushing himself back to his feet as his Super Saiyan aura stabilized. The sight of his adopted home under attack renewed his determination, burning away fatigue through sheer will. We should, he began, but stopped abruptly as another familiar energy signature registered. No. Elder Piku. Without waiting for Vegeta's response, Roku teleported instantly to the source of the Elder's energy. He rematerialized in what had once been the council chambers, now a partially collapsed structure where Frieza's soldiers had gathered captive Yardrat elders. Elder Piku stood defiantly before a small, hovering figure that could only be Frieza. In his first form, the tyrant appeared almost unimpressive, until one sensed the monstrous power contained within his compact body. I'll ask once more, Frieza was saying, his voice cultured yet chilling. Where is the Saiyan you harbored? Where is this Super Saiyan of Yardrat? Gone beyond your reach, Elder Piku replied calmly, despite the dangerous situation. You waste your time here, Lord Frieza. Frieza's tail lashed in irritation. Your teleportation tricks won't save you or him. I'll reduce this entire planet to asteroid remains if necessary. No, you won't, Roku stated, his transformed presence filling the chamber with golden light. Frisia turned slowly, his red eyes widening slightly at the sight of the golden-haired warrior. "Well," he remarked with forced casualness. "The guest of honor arrives at last." "Roku!" Elder Piku exclaimed. "You shouldn't have come back." "I couldn't let Yardrat suffer for sheltering me," Roku replied, his teal eyes never leaving Frisia. "This ends today." A thin smile curved Frisia's black lips. "Indeed it does, monkey. Though I must say, the golden hair is a dramatic touch." Captain Jinyu's reports didn't mention quite so much, glowing. Before Roku could respond, Vegeta and Nappa teleported into the chamber behind him, having followed his energy signature. "Frisia," Vegeta's voice dripped with hatred accumulated over a lifetime of servitude and humiliation. "Prince Vegeta," Frisia acknowledged with mock courtesy. "Still collecting strays, I see. First Raditz, then Nappa, now this, hybrid curiosity." "He's the last thing you'll ever see," Vegeta promised darkly. Frisia sighed theatrically. Such dramatic declarations. 3 monkeys against the ruler of the galaxy. Did you really think you'd accomplish anything beyond ensuring this planet's destruction? As they spoke, Roku noticed Frisia's soldiers slowly surrounding them, cutting off escape routes. Not that he intended to escape, but he needed to get Elder Piku and the other captive Yardrats to safety. "Elder," he said quietly. "Get everyone out." Understanding immediately, Elder Piku gestured subtly to the other Yardrats. In perfect synchronization, they teleported away, leaving only the 3 scions facing Frisia and his soldiers. "How rude," Frisia remarked. "I wasn't finished interrogating them." "Your business is with us," Roku stated firmly. "Leave Yardrat out of it." "My business is whatever I decide it is," Frisia corrected coldly. "This planet harbored scion fugitives. That alone warrants its destruction. The fact that one of those scions has achieved some garish transformation merely adds personal interest." Without warning, Frisia fired a death beam directly at Roku's heart. Even with super scion reflexes, the attack speed was astonishing, yet somehow, Roku managed to deflect it with a precise energy-infused palm strike, sending the lethal beam crashing into the ceiling. Frisia's expression shifted from casual arrogance to focused calculation. "Interesting. Your power has indeed increased substantially." His eyes narrowed. "Soldiers. Eliminate these pests." The assembled Frisia Force warriors attacked en masse, dozens of elite soldiers converging on the 3 scions simultaneously. Under normal circumstances, such numbers would have presented a serious challenge. Against 2 trained scion elites and a super scion, they barely qualified as a warm-up. Vegeta and Nappa tore through their ranks with practiced efficiency, while Roku moved at speeds that rendered him nearly invisible to standard scouters. Within minutes, Frisia stood alone amid the unconscious or dead bodies of his elite guard. "Most impressive," the tyrant acknowledged, seemingly unconcerned by his soldiers' defeat. "Perhaps I should take this more seriously." Power began building around Frisia's compact form, the air itself distorting with energy. "Allow me to show you my second form. I so rarely get to transform these days, most opponents don't warrant the effort." "Now!" Vegeta shouted, recognizing the danger. "Don't let him transform." All 3 scions attacked simultaneously, converging on Frisia from different angles with their most powerful techniques. Vegeta launched his Gallic gun, Nappa his Bomber DX, and Roku a full-power Kamehameha. The 3 energy beams struck Frisia's transforming form simultaneously, creating a massive explosion that collapsed what remained of the council chamber. Dust and debris filled the air as the scions braced against the shockwave of their combined attack. "Did we get him?" Nappa asked hopefully as the dust began to settle. A chilling laugh answered from within the cloud. "Get me? Oh, you misunderstand the situation entirely." As the debris cleared, Frisia stood unharmed at the center of a small crater. His body had changed, growing taller and more muscular, with elongated horns extending from his head. His power level had increased exponentially. My second form, he announced unnecessarily. Already more than sufficient for 3 uppity monkeys. Before any of them could react, Frisia moved, his speed in this form defying conventional perception. His fist connected with Nappa's midsection with such force that the large scion was sent crashing through multiple crystal structures before coming to rest nearly a mile away, his energy signature flickering weakly. Nappa! Vegeta shouted in alarm. One down, Frisia smiled cruelly. Who's next? The prince or the anomaly? Roku and Vegeta exchanged quick glances, wordlessly agreeing on a coordination strategy they practiced during their months on Cooler's ship. They attacked in perfect synchronization, Vegeta launching energy blasts to keep Frisia occupied while Roku teleported continuously, striking from unpredictable angles. The strategy proved moderately effective. Frisia couldn't track Roku's teleportation even in his second form, allowing the young Super Saiyan to land several powerful blows. Meanwhile, Vegeta demonstrated why he had been considered an elite warrior, his techniques refined through decades of combat experience. But Frisia was far from overwhelmed. He adapted quickly to their tactics, his tail becoming a devastating weapon that could strike in any direction. When Roku teleported behind him for what would have been a decisive blow, that tail whipped around with impossible speed, catching him across the chest and sending him crashing into a crystal formation. Your teleportation is impressive, Frisia acknowledged. But ultimately predictable. You attack from blind spots, which means a limited number of possible positions. Vegeta seized the momentary distraction to launch a point-blank Gallic gun, pouring everything he had into the purple energy beam. Frisia caught it with one hand, the attack pushing him back several feet before he dissipated it with a casual gesture. Prince Vegeta, he sighed. Always the same techniques. One would think you'd have developed something new during your unauthorized sabbatical. With blinding speed, Frisia closed the distance between them, delivering a devastating combination that left Vegeta bloody and dazed. The prince fought back with desperate fury, landing occasional blows but taking far more damage than he inflicted. Roku teleported back into the fray, launching a Kamehameha that caught Frisia by surprise, actually causing visible damage to the tyrant's armor. Frisia's expression darkened as he touched the scorched section of his chest plate. That, he said quietly, was painful. Perhaps there's something to this Super Saiyan nonsense after all. Without warning, Frisia began transforming again, his body contorting as power surged around him. Neither Roku nor the wounded Vegeta could interrupt the process this time, forced back by the sheer energy being released. Frisia's third form was even more alien in appearance, his skull elongated grotesquely, his power level nearly doubling again. Now then, he said, his voice distorted in this form. Shall we continue our little game? What followed was less a battle and more a demonstration of overwhelming power. Though Roku's Super Saiyan form kept him in the fight, Vegeta quickly found himself outmatched, his attacks barely registering against Frisia's enhanced durability. A particularly vicious assault left the Saiyan prince broken and bleeding on the ground, barely conscious. Frisia stood over him, tail poised for a killing strike. How fitting, the tyrant mused. The prince of all Saiyans, dying on a backwater planet while defending the very race that sheltered the Super Saiyan he so envied. Vegeta. Roku teleported between them, blocking Frisia's tail with a crossed-arm guard. The impact still drove him to his knees, such was the tyrant's strength in this form. Noble, but futile, Frisia observed. He's as good as dead anyway. You, however, you intrigue me, young Super Saiyan. Perhaps I'll keep you alive for study. Not happening, Roku growled, his golden aura flaring brighter as he pushed back against Frisia's tail. Teleporting Vegeta's unconscious form to relative safety, Roku faced Frisia alone, acutely aware that even his Super Saiyan power wasn't sufficient against the tyrant's third form. Yet he couldn't flee, not with Yardrat still in danger. You can't win this fight, Frisia stated matter-of-factly. Even with your pretty golden hair and increased strength, you're still just a Saiyan, and a young, inexperienced one at that. Maybe, Roku acknowledged, dropping into a fighting stance Elder Piku had taught him years ago. But I can still hurt you. And if hurting you keeps Yardrat safe, that's enough. Something like genuine curiosity crossed Frisia's alien features. Such devotion to a planet not your own. Fascinating. Most scions care only for battle and conquest. I'm not most scions, Roku replied simply. No, you're not, Frisia agreed. Which makes me wonder what you might become if properly guided. He extended a hand in a gesture almost resembling an offer. Join me, young Super Scion. Your power combined with my empire would be unstoppable. The offer caught Roku by surprise, not because it tempted him, but because it revealed something unexpected about Frisia. The tyrant could recognize and value unique potential, even in a race he despised. I'll pass, Roku replied coldly. You destroyed my homeworld, tried to eradicate my race, and now threaten the people who raised me. There's no version of reality where we end up on the same side. Frisia sighed dramatically. Pity. Then I suppose I'll have to kill you after all. His body began to change again, morphing toward his final, most powerful form. A shame to waste such potential, but one can't have golden monkeys running around unchecked. As Frisia's transformation began, Roku knew he had only one chance. The tyrant's final form would likely overwhelm even his Super Scion power, but during the transformation itself, Frisia was vulnerable, focused inward on the metamorphosis rather than external threats. Drawing on everything he had learned, from Elder Piku's spiritual techniques to Vegeta's combat strategies to his own unique fusion of both traditions, Roku gathered his energy. For one decisive attack. Me. Blue energy swirled between his cupped hands, amplified by his golden Super Scion aura. Me. The energy sphere grew to unprecedented size, Roku's perfect control allowing him to compress enormous power into a stable form. Elder Piku's lessons on energy manipulation combined with his scion capacity for raw power generation, creating something greater than either tradition could produce alone. Roku thrust his hands forward, releasing the most powerful Kamehameha he had ever generated. The massive blue beam, surrounded by crackling golden energy from his Super Scion aura, struck Frisia directly at his most vulnerable moment, mid-transformation between third and final forms. The tyrant screamed in genuine pain and surprise as the energy engulfed him, driving him backward through multiple structures and deep into Yardrat's purple soil. The beam continued for nearly a minute, Roku pouring every ounce of power he could muster into sustaining it. When the attack finally dissipated, Roku fell to his knees, his Super Scion aura flickering as exhaustion threatened to overcome him. Had it worked? Had he managed to defeat Frisia during that moment of vulnerability? The answer came in the form of a small, white hand emerging from the massive crater his attack had created. Frisia pulled himself up, his body now sleek and streamlined, the feared final form that even Cooler had spoken of with cautious respect. Despite taking the full force of Roku's ultimate attack during transformation, Frisia appeared largely unharmed, though his breathing was slightly labored and several burn marks marred his normally pristine white skin. Impressive, the tyrant acknowledged, dusting himself off casually. That actually hurt. No one has hurt me in this form well, I can't actually remember the last time. Roku struggled back to his feet, determined to continue fighting despite his depleted energy. Still, not done. Oh, but you are, Frisia corrected, suddenly appearing directly in front of him, such was his speed in this form. Your power is exceptional for a scion, truly. In a few years, you might even have become a genuine threat. A white hand closed around Roku's throat, lifting him effortlessly. But you made a critical error, young Super Scion. You revealed yourself too soon. Had you trained in secret for another decade, mastered your golden form completely, who knows? But as you are now. Frisia tightened his grip, cutting off Roku's air supply. You're simply not enough. Darkness began creeping into Roku's vision as his oxygen-deprived brain approached shutdown. His Super Scion aura flickered wildly, threatening to extinguish completely. In desperation, he tried to teleport, but his concentration was too fragmented to execute the technique. This was it, then. After everything, surviving planet Vegeta's destruction, growing up on Yardrat, achieving the legendary transformation, he would die here, failing to protect his adopted home from the same tyrant who had destroyed his birth planet. As consciousness began to fade, Roku's hand clutched reflexively at Nana's crystal pendant. Its familiar energy pulsed against his palm, a final connection to the world he had fought to protect. Nana. Elder Piku. The peaceful Yardrats who had raised an alien child as their own, despite knowing his scion heritage. He had failed them all. Roku. Roku, I'm here. The familiar voice penetrated his fading consciousness like a lifeline. Nana. Impossible. She should be safely hidden in the sanctuary caves with the other Yardrats. Yet there she was, her small blue-tinged form materializing nearby through teleportation. In her hands, she held a glowing crystal sphere, larger than any Roku had seen on Yardrat, pulsing with ancient power. The heart of Yardrat, Frisia identified the artifact with surprising recognition. So the legends were true. These teleporting weaklings did possess a power source. He dropped Roku unceremoniously, turning his attention to Nana and the crystal sphere. Give that to me, little one, and I might spare your pathetic planet. Don't, Roku gasped, struggling to his knees. Nana, run. Instead of fleeing, Nana locked eyes with Roku. Catch, she called, tossing the crystal sphere toward him with surprising strength. Acting on instinct, Roku reached out, catching the artifact despite his weakened state. The moment his hands touched the crystal, energy unlike anything he'd ever experienced flooded through him. Pure, ancient power, the concentrated spiritual essence of Yardrat itself. What? Frisia exclaimed in alarm as golden light exploded around Roku once more, but different this time, deeper, more stable. The heart of Yardrat resonated with Roku's dual nature, amplifying both his scion strength and Yardrat's spiritual connection simultaneously. His super scion aura stabilized, then intensified, electricity crackling around his golden form. What is this? Frisia demanded, his composure slipping for the first time. What have you done? Roku rose to his feet, the crystal sphere fusing temporarily with the pendant Nana had given him, both now glowing with golden energy. You were right about one thing, Frisia, he said, his voice steady despite his earlier near-death. I wasn't enough on my own. He gestured to the crystal. But I'm not on my own. I never was. The heart of Yardrat channeled the collective spiritual energy of the entire planet, accumulated over millennia. It wasn't designed as a weapon, the peaceful Yardrats had created it as a focus for planetary teleportation in ancient times, but in combination with super scion power, it created something unprecedented. Impossible, Frisia hissed, backing away slightly. No scion should have this power. I told you, Roku replied calmly. I'm not just a scion. Moving with speed that surprised even Frisia, Roku closed the distance between them, landing a punch enhanced by both super scion strength and Yardrat's spiritual energy. The impact sent Frisia crashing through multiple crystal formations, leaving a trail of destruction across Yardrat's landscape. The tyrant recovered quickly, his final form's durability evident as he rose from the rubble, a trickle of purple blood at the corner of his mouth. Lucky shot, he snarled, his casual demeanor replaced by cold fury. But this ends now. What followed was a battle unlike any in recent galactic history. Frisia's final form possessed power that had subjugated countless worlds, speed that made him nearly untraceable, and technique refined through decades of combat. Against any normal opponent, even most super scions, the outcome would have been inevitable. But Roku, temporarily enhanced by the heart of Yardrat, was no normal opponent. The ancient artifact amplified his already formidable abilities, allowing him to match Frisia blow for blow. When the tyrant launched death beams, Roku deflected them with precise energy manipulation. When Frisia used his superior speed, Roku countered with enhanced teleportation, appearing wherever needed instantaneously. The battle raged across Yardrat, moving from the devastated village to crystal forests to mountain ranges. Earth and stone shattered under the force of their clashes, the very atmosphere igniting at points from the energy being released. Gradually, however, Roku noticed the heart of Yardrat's glow diminishing. The artifact wasn't designed for sustained combat, and its power was finite. He needed to end this quickly, before its enhancement faded completely. Frisia noticed it too, a calculating smile spreading across his face as he observed the crystal's dimming light. "Your borrowed power is failing," he taunted. "And when it does, you'll be right back where you started, at my mercy." "Then I better not waste it," Roku replied, gathering energy for one final attack. Unlike his previous Kamehameha, this technique drew on the unique properties of the heart of Yardrat, combining teleportation principles with concentrated energy projection. As he prepared the attack, Roku teleported rapidly around Frisia, creating afterimages that confused even the tyrant's enhanced perceptions. "What game is this?" Frisia demanded, turning in circles as he tried to track Roku's movements. "Not a game," Roku's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once as he continued teleporting. "A technique. Something new." Energy gathered around each afterimage, connected by threads of golden light that gradually formed a complex pattern surrounding Frisia. The tyrant realized the trap too late, firing death beams that passed harmlessly through the afterimages. "Transmission wave!" Roku shouted, completing the technique. The energy pattern collapsed inward, striking Frisia from all directions simultaneously. Unlike conventional attacks that could be blocked or deflected, the transmission wave struck through space itself, bypassing traditional defenses. Frisia screamed in genuine pain as the energy engulfed him, his final form's durability tested beyond its limits. For a moment, it seemed the attack might actually destroy him, but the tyrant's survival instincts were as extraordinary as his power. With a roar of defiance, Frisia expanded his own energy outward, creating a protective sphere that disrupted the transmission wave before it could deliver its full damage. The resulting explosion still sent him crashing into Yardrat's surface with enough force to create a crater visible from orbit. As the dust settled, Roku floated above the impact site, the heart of Yardrat now dim in his hands, its power nearly exhausted. His Super Saiyan aura flickered but held, his own reserves approaching their limits as well. For several moments, nothing moved within the crater. Then, slowly, Frisia emerged, bloodied, his white skin marred by burns and lacerations, one eye swollen shut. For the first time in perhaps decades, the tyrant had been genuinely hurt. "You." Frisia's voice wavered between rage and disbelief. "A mere Scion child, how dare you?" Despite his injuries, Frisia's power level remained formidable. Roku realized with sinking certainty that he hadn't defeated the tyrant, merely injured him. And with the heart of Yardrat's power fading, he might not get another chance. "This isn't over," Frisia snarled, rising unsteadily into the air. "I will destroy this entire planet. Every crystal, every teleporting freak, and especially you." Energy gathered above Frisia's outstretched finger, a death ball large enough to obliterate Yardrat completely, just as he had destroyed planet Vegeta decades earlier. Even in his wounded state, the tyrant possessed more than enough power for planetary destruction. "I won't let you," Roku declared, though he knew stopping an attack of that magnitude would require more power than he had remaining. As the death ball grew, a familiar energy signature appeared beside Roku, Elder Piku, teleporting directly into the confrontation despite the danger. "Elder, you need to leave," Roku urged desperately. "He's going to destroy the planet." "Not this time," Elder Piku replied with surprising calm. He placed a gnarled hand on the dimming heart of Yardrat. "This artifact has one final purpose, passed down through generations of elders. A purpose we hoped never to use." The ancient Yardrat began chanting in his native language, words Roku recognized from the deepest spiritual texts he'd studied. The heart of Yardrat pulsed once, twice, then glowed with renewed brilliance, not golden this time, but pure white. "What are you doing?" Roku asked, feeling the artifact growing hot in his hands. Planetary transmission, Elder Piku explained grimly. In ancient times, when catastrophe threatened our world, the elders could teleport the entire planet to safety. It requires tremendous sacrifice. Roku understood with horrible clarity. The heart needs a power source. Elder Piku nodded. Traditionally, the combined life force of the Elder Council. But with the heart already connected to your Super Saiyan energy. No. Roku protested. There must be another way. There isn't, Elder Piku said gently. Frisia's attack will destroy Yardrat completely. This is the only way to save our people. Above them, Frisia's death ball had reached massive proportions, nearly ready to launch. Die with your adopted planet, Super Saiyan, the tyrant screamed, preparing to release the attack. Elder Piku placed both hands on Roku's shoulders. You gave us 15 years of joy, child of two worlds. Now we give you a future. His ancient eyes met Roku's transformed teal ones with perfect serenity. Remember the balance we taught you. It is your greatest strength. Before Roku could protest further, Elder Piku began channeling his life force into the heart of Yardrat. The artifact blazed with light, creating a spherical field that expanded rapidly outward, encompassing the entire planet just as Frisia launched his death ball. What is this? Frisia demanded as the energy field disrupted his attack, causing the death ball to destabilize and explode prematurely in the upper atmosphere. Roku felt the planetary transmission activating, reality itself warping around Yardrat as the ancient technique prepared to teleport an entire world across the galaxy. Elder Piku's form began to fade, his physical body converting to pure energy to power the massive teleportation. Elder, no! Roku cried out, reaching for his mentor. Be well, Roku of Yardrat, Elder Piku's voice came as if from great distance. Find Nana and the others, at the coordinates in your pendant. Our sanctuary world awaits. With those final words, Elder Piku vanished completely, his life force merging with the heart of Yardrat. The artifact pulsed one final time, then shattered, releasing its accumulated power in a blinding flash. When Roku's vision cleared, Yardrat, its landscape, its crystal formations, its purple soil, had vanished completely. He floated alone in empty space where the planet had been moments before, protected from vacuum only by his Super Saiyan aura. Across from him, equally shocked by the planet's disappearance, floated a battered and enraged Frisia. Where is it? The tyrant screamed, his composure shattered completely. Where did the planet go? Roku himself wasn't entirely sure. The coordinates Elder Piku mentioned were somehow encoded in Nana's pendant, which still hung around his neck. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty, Yardrat and its people were beyond Frisia's reach. Somewhere you'll never find it, he answered, his grief for Elder Piku temporarily overwhelmed by relief that the Yardrats had escaped. Frisia's rage was terrible to behold. You cost me a planet. A valuable world. No one defies me this way. No one. Despite his injuries, the tyrant prepared another attack, but before he could launch it, a massive shadow fell over both of them. Roku looked up to see Cooler's flagship appearing from hyperspace, its weapons systems already targeting Frisia's position. Brother, Cooler's amplified voice came from the ship's external communications system. How unfortunate to find you in such reduced circumstances. Frisia's expression shifted from rage to calculation as he assessed his situation, wounded, facing both a Super Saiyan who had already injured him significantly and his brother's fully armed flagship. This isn't over, he snarled at Roku. Not by any measure. With that final threat, Frisia retreated, flying toward his own ship which waited at the edge of what had been Yardrat's solar system. Even in his wounded state, his speed was remarkable. Exhaustion finally overcame Roku as the immediate danger passed. His Super Saiyan aura flickered out, hair returning to its normal black as he lost consciousness. The last thing he perceived was a tractor beam from Cooler's ship, pulling his drifting form to safety. Roku awoke in a regeneration tank aboard Cooler's flagship, the healing fluid gradually draining as the system detected his return to consciousness. As the tank opened, he found Vegeta waiting, arms crossed and expression unreadable. "Welcome back to the land of the living," the prince said dryly. "For a while, we thought you might join the old Yardrat in the afterlife." Memory flooded back, the battle with Frieza, Elder Piku's sacrifice, Yardrat's disappearance. "The planet," Roku said urgently, sitting up despite his body's protests. "Did it really teleport away?" "Yes." Vegeta shook his head in disbelief. "Cooler's scientists are still trying to understand how it happened. An entire planet, vanishing instantaneously. Unprecedented. And Nappa? Recovering. His injuries were severe but not fatal." Roku touched his neck, relieved to find Nana's pendant still there. "Did you know about the heart of Yardrat?" he asked. "Is that why Frieza targeted the planet specifically?" Cooler says both he and Frieza had heard legends of a world with teleportation technology so advanced they could move planets, Vegeta confirmed. Neither believed it until now. Roku examined the pendant closely, sensing subtle changes in its energy pattern. Somehow, Elder Piku had encoded the coordinates of Yardrat's new location within it, a final gift to ensure Roku could find his adopted people again. "I need to find them," he said, standing carefully. "The surviving Yardrats, Nana, they're out there somewhere." "And you will," came Cooler's voice as the tyrant entered the medical bay. "After you fulfill your end of our arrangement." Roku tensed, but Vegeta placed a restraining hand on his shoulder. Cooler held up his part of the bargain, the prince reminded him. "His ship arrived just in time to prevent Frieza from launching a second attack while you were unconscious." "Indeed," Cooler agreed smoothly. "And while I couldn't directly engage my brother without risking open cold family conflict, my presence was sufficient to encourage his tactical withdrawal." "What do you want?" Roku asked bluntly. "Your continued alliance," Cooler replied. "The battle with my brother has changed the galactic landscape significantly. For the first time in decades, Frieza appears vulnerable. His reputation for invincibility is tarnished." Roku understood the implications. In a galaxy ruled by fear of Frieza's power, even the rumor that he had been wounded by a Super Saiyan would cause ripples throughout his empire. "You want me as a symbol," he realized. "The Super Saiyan who challenged Frieza and lived." "Precisely," Cooler confirmed. "Your presence alone will encourage defections from my brother's forces, weaken his grip on contested systems. And strengthen yours," Vegeta added pointedly. Cooler didn't deny it. "A mutually beneficial arrangement. You gain resources, protection, and eventually the opportunity to challenge my brother again, with better preparation. I gain leverage in the ongoing cold family power struggle." It was calculated, self-serving, and undeniably practical. Roku glanced at Vegeta, who gave a slight nod of approval. The prince had always advocated using Cooler's resources while maintaining independence of action. "I'll stay with your alliance temporarily," Roku decided. "But on one condition, I need time and resources to locate the displaced Yardrats." "Reasonable," Cooler agreed readily. "I'm quite interested in this planetary teleportation technology myself. Finding your adopted people serves both our interests." With arrangements settled, Cooler left them to complete Roku's recovery. Once alone, Vegeta spoke with unexpected sincerity. "You fought well against Frieza," the prince acknowledged. "Few have ever wounded him in his final form." "Not well enough," Roku countered, remembering how close Yardrat had come to destruction. "Without Elder Piku's sacrifice, everything would be lost." "Perhaps," Vegeta conceded. "But you've achieved something no Saiyan has in living memory, you've made Frieza bleed. Made him fear. That alone changes everything." Roku looked down at his hands, remembering the incredible power he'd wielded with the heart of Yardrat's enhancement. "I need to become stronger," he said quietly. "Strong enough that next time, no sacrifices are needed. Then we train, Vegeta declared with newfound determination. We push beyond current limits. And when we face Frieza again, we end him permanently. In the days that followed, as Cooler's flagship traveled to a secure base of operations, Roku spent hours studying Nana's pendant, gradually deciphering the complex energy. Something went wrong with this response, please try again. Shift the story straight into the next chapter. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.